If I told you NBA YoungBoy had 19 people killed, would you believe me? Right now, nobody has a bigger buzz in the rap game than YoungBoy. His Massa tour reportedly grossed over $70 million and is on track to be one of the top 10 earning rap tours in American history. Only the realist YoungBoy fans would know that YoungBoy hadn't touched a stage since March 2020, right before the lockdowns begun, when his Still Flexin' Still Steppin' tour was cut short after the second stop in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, by the end of 2020, when the rest of the world was being let out, YoungBoy was being put on a different kind of lockdown. He spent the last 5 years in and out of prison and on house arrest, unable to perform, but also making him impossible to kill. But despite all the rumors, he's never actually been charged with murder. He famously caught double attempted murder charges in 2016, attempting to avenge his murdered cousin Boozilla. In his most recent stretch, he spent just under a year behind bars after pleading guilty to numerous charges, including federal gun charges stemming from a heavily armed music video gone wrong, as well as state charges for a devious plot that saw YoungBoy and his friends impersonating doctors in an effort to get their hands on unlimited prescription pills and drank in the state of Utah. These efforts at putting together a drill rapper starter pack robbed YoungBoy of 5 years of his freedom, but between jail stints, he was on house arrest, forced to do nothing but fight his depression, pop pills, and make some of the most groundbreaking gangster rap that had ever been made. YoungBoy was prolific with his releases while on house arrest and in jail, releasing 7 albums and 7 mixtapes, all of this while battling for his freedom, meaning that even behind bars within just a few years, YoungBoy's work rate had surpassed many of the biggest artists in the world entire careers. But this year, in 2025, he walked free from the federal FCI Talladega prison, getting an early release in March, with one of his conditions being a whopping 60 months of strict probation. And despite his official rap sheet of serious crimes and unofficial title of the Murder Man of Baton Rouge, in May 2025, he inexplicably received a presidential pardon from the Slimander-in-Chief himself, Donald Trump. Apparently, this was the direct result of lobbying carried out by political heavyweight DJ Academics, who was the one who asked Trump's son to pardon YoungBoy during a campaign stream.
A lot of people are asking, there's a guy who's a beloved, he's just a misunderstood guy actually. His name is NBA YoungBoy. If Trump gets back in office and this guy's locked up, we gotta throw him to the top of the party. Come on.
This presidential pardon cleared the path for YoungBoy to have a fresh start, not just getting back his freedom, but freeing him from any probation or restrictions that would have prevented him from flying around America or the world on tour. And he would return almost 5 years on from his cancelled 2020 tour in 2025, embarking on his Make America Slime Again tour in honor of Donald Trump. His shows would go from theaters that at their largest held a few thousand people to selling out almost 20,000 person venues like the Crypto Arena, and reportedly making anywhere from $800,000 to close to $2 million per show, and releasing 2 more full-length albums before the tour even ended, and cementing his place as perhaps the most successful street rapper of all time, with an estimated 31 million albums sold, over 48 billion streams, and a whopping 41 full-length projects in his catalog at the time of recording. But behind the success, there's a dark secret. YoungBoy was rumored to have been able to make as much as $100 million per year from his insanely successful gangster rap career. Numbers that frankly many people would kill for, or perhaps in this case, kill to protect. Like many gangster rappers in this generation, YoungBoy has been accused of having people murdered. In this case, over a dozen people have allegedly been murdered in order to protect his 9-figure gangster rap empire. Actually, it's less that he's been accused of organizing over a dozen murders, and more like he's actually confessed to organizing over a dozen murders, with numerous lyrics over the years seeing YoungBoy rapping about murder and references to a body count that seemed to grow year by year, from at least one alleged body in the mid-2010s when he first started rapping only age 16, to seemingly confessing to having 3 bodies and subtracting 2 attempts or losses around 2019, to shockingly claiming at least 3 times to have a total of 7 bodies by 2020. His kill count would appear to rise to 12 plus a child by 2022. By March 2024, he was claiming to be responsible for 15 murders, and apparently he would reach a grand total of 19 bodies by June 2024.
Baton Rouge police are looking into a deadly shooting that claimed the life of a local rapper.
When an unknown suspect in a red Chevy Trailblazer
G wasn't quick enough.
The shooting death of a local rapper.
Baton Rouge police say the local rapper was shot and killed at his home at Lakeside Villa Apartments on Wellwood Drive after midnight.
The deadly shooting of a student walking home from school.
New details surrounding a violent crime that happened here around 7:15 Saturday night.
Well, police are trying to get to the bottom of a drive-by shooting in Baton Rouge.
Police say someone shot Jason Nixon
Hey, look, hanging out the one that's trying to flush along the interstate.
Today, Baton Rouge police named the 2 people killed on River Road last night.
2 people were killed and 2 others were sent to a hospital.
We now know the name of the person killed in a shooting in Baton Rouge.
Police say 24-year-old Deontay Veal was shot and killed.
Investigators say 23-year-old Tremaine Phillips died.
Breaking tonight, 1 person dead after a shooting on Sherwood Common Boulevard.
Person shot and killed along North Acadian. 30-year-old Jawan Alisi was shot to death.
Just know that ain't my work, man.
They are looking for information on the shooting death of this man here.
And this isn't some huge secret. In fact, I discussed in my previous video, YoungBoy, Real Killer or Fake Gangster, which I made a couple years ago when his body count was still at 12. But the truth is, YoungBoy isn't the person pulling the triggers and committing these murders personally. He openly raps about contracting killers over 7 times, never even seeing the face of the people doing the hits. Although his 2016 double attempted murder charges would prove that he's clearly capable of pulling the trigger if it came to it. In efforts to prevent him bailing out on his prior charges, the FBI have openly labeled YoungBoy as the known leader of a violent Louisiana gang. And the truth is, he is literally surrounded by shooters at all times, with a number of the most notorious shooters in the South being affiliated with his NBA or Never Broke Again record label and his alleged 4K Trey street gang and their allies state to state, meaning that wherever YoungBoy goes, he's accompanied by countless crash outs who are ready and willing to shoot and catch bodies to protect YoungBoy and his multi-million-dollar interests. So in this video, I'll answer once and for all, are all of these murders and murderers the secret ingredient to YoungBoy's gangster rap empire? Does YoungBoy really need shooters around him at all times to make sure he stays alive and that his rivals die early, or is he destined to meet the same fate as his biggest rival, Lil Durk, and eventually going to get taken down by the feds, who might well still be at this very second working tirelessly to solve these murders while he's reaching the peak of his career? Well, in this video, I have all of the answers, as I'll reveal one by one the gruesome truth behind each and every one of YoungBoy's alleged 19 murder victims, which have never before been identified publicly until now. But before we go any further, I just want to warn you, this video contains themes of death, murder, and violence. If you're uncomfortable with any of these tragic themes, you might want to choose another video. I'm going to break down each one of the suspected 19 murders that YoungBoy claims that he organized, the tragic story behind it, and also the social media rumors regarding exactly which NBA members people think pulled the trigger. Much of the information in this video is based on public rumors, and I can't 100% vouch for the authenticity of the theories that have been circulated online by third parties. This video has been created for documentary and journalistic purposes to raise awareness about a story in the public interest regarding a well-known public figure. All clips included in this video are included under the doctrine of fair use for analysis, critique, and news reporting, and I've ensured that this video has been heavily censored in order to comply with YouTube's community and advertiser guidelines. But if you want an uncut and extended version of this video, you can go to patreon.com/traplawross, where I upload all of my full-length documentaries completely uncut. But if you're okay with all of that, then just keep watching and get ready to hear the single most insane story in gangster rap that you will ever hear. Years before the sold-out stadiums, the 40 billion streams, and the countless Reddit posts speculating on how many murders YoungBoy was responsible for, he was just a troubled southern kid from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His real name is Kentrell Deshaun Goulden, and he was born in 1999 in Baton Rouge, where he grew up in the city's north side around 38th Street and Chippewa, suffering a turbulent childhood overshadowed by violence and tragedy, in part due to his father getting a 55-year sentence for armed robbery and attempted murder, and the death of his beloved grandmother who raised him. This all led to YoungBoy being sent to a group home where he would suffer severe abuse and bullying, before he would eventually start a life of crime of his own during his teenage years, doing home invasions and robberies that would eventually land him in juvenile detention. It was during this time that YoungBoy finally found his purpose through writing rhymes, and upon his release, he began recording low-quality songs at home with his friend and roommate OG33 using a cheap microphone from Walmart. It didn't take him long to pick up a buzz in the Baton Rouge street rap scene, and he soon aligned himself with a local rap label and borderline gang known as Top Boy Gorilla, or TBG, led by rappers G Money and Fredo Bang. Unfortunately, one of the first people to give YoungBoy a leg up in his career would wind up being the first of many people that would be murdered to protect that career. YoungBoy would eventually release his first mixtape, Life Before Fame, under the TBG label in 2015, but soon issues like jealousy, disputes over money, and street beefs seemed to cause a falling out between YoungBoy and TBG, and in the aftermath, he and his close friend OG33 branched off and started their own movement that would eventually be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm of course talking about NBA, aka Never Broke Again, which became both a rap label and a tight-knit crew of YoungBoy's closest friends, as well as his most prolific shooters and killers. This included infamous figures like Ben 10, Big B, Herm, Montana, Michi Baby, KD, Lil Pap, and Baba, just to mention a few. Moreover, in countless lyrics, YoungBoy and other NBA members would claim allegiance to a gang known as 4KT or 4K Trey, which appears to be a larger street alliance in Baton Rouge, and possibly also in other cities that YoungBoy and his friends would represent. There's been endless debate about the true underlying meaning of 4K Trey. Some have suggested it refers to those who kill for YoungBoy, or killing for Kentrell. Others have suggested that it actually referred to the beef with TBG from the south side of Baton Rouge who rep the 4, saying that they're 4K or 4 killers and that they banged the 3 or the Trey, while others have suggested that it refers to forever killing the Ops. But whatever the true meaning, the broader national alliance of this gang appears to be within the Bloods, more specifically the notorious East Coast originated Blood faction known as Money Murder or SMM, who are known for sometimes representing themselves with the bright green color instead of the traditional red, while also making use of other symbolism based on this color theme, like calling each other slime. But before NBA or 4K Trey would allegedly commit their first murder, they would suffer a tragic loss of their own, which led to one of the only incidents where YoungBoy himself had been confirmed to have personally been involved in a shooting. These events began unfolding when YoungBoy's cousin Boozilla, affiliated with a crew known as BBG or Bottom Boy Gorillas, was gunned down in November 2016. BBG was a direct rival to TBG, the label and gang that YoungBoy declined to sign to, who had since turned from YoungBoy's acquaintances to his main rivals. In the aftermath of Boozilla's murder, YoungBoy would wind up catching a double attempted murder charge for a shooting incident where he and other known NBA members tried to avenge Boozilla's death. The following year, in 2017, YoungBoy would plead guilty to aggravated assault and ended up getting a suspended sentence in this case. Effectively, the judge had been very merciful and granted him a second chance at life in his career with strict conditions. Soon after his release, he would hit the big leagues with his music, dropping the coveted AI YoungBoy mixtape, charting on Billboard, and signing a $2 million deal with Atlantic Records. But while YoungBoy's career was reaching new heights, his feud with TBG would intensify, and his former friend G Money would soon become his biggest rival. G Money would begin dissing YoungBoy with dedicated tracks like WNBA Smoke, where he appears to threaten to send his shooters at YoungBoy and the NBA crew, rapping that if you take it there with him, you're not going to make it back. YoungBoy would fire back in songs such as Ride On 'Em, with chilling lyrics claiming that the only way the beef would end was with G Money getting shot, and even hinting that he'd put a bag on his head. Now, before we go any further, I just want to make one thing clear. You can hate on YoungBoy all you want, and you can call me the feds, but this is a dangerous man who warns his enemies and tells them exactly what's going to happen to them. G Money was warned what would happen in 2017 if he kept playing with YoungBoy, but he didn't take these warnings seriously, and he wound up being the first of many who unfortunately found out the hard way that nothing can get in the way of the NBA empire. The conflict kept escalating throughout 2017 as both sides would go back and forth on social media.
Yeah, that little like my little partner, he used to be like my little brother. He stayed with me and everything. Everything was still all good until he started, you know what I'm saying, like doing his own thing, getting them a little buzz, getting a little money. He just got the big. He mad about his sister too, though. About his sister? Yeah, I had her a long time ago.
She don't like me or something. I'm about beefing. What it is? I don't like you. I'm gonna keep on it. I don't like you. Talking about you don't like this and that. You ain't no for you to like, you hear me?
G Money wanted all the smoke, and his next move would be a fatal escalation. On August the 27th, 2017, G Money dropped his notorious song Industry, another dedicated diss track aimed at YoungBoy and NBA. But this time, G Money would get way more personal, mentioning people close to YoungBoy like his late cousin Boozilla and his mother Sharonda, as well as his sister, this time in a way that made sure that the relationship between these two former friends would never be repaired. But perhaps most interestingly, G Money also revealed that someone had allegedly put $100,000 on his head, with Redditors later spreading rumors that YoungBoy's notorious manager Big Dump was actually the very person behind this $100,000 bounty. Famously, the video also prominently featured a Chucky doll, which was apparently a reference to an earlier YoungBoy video called What I Was Taught from September 2016, where the same doll could be seen, and this cursed doll would continue to pop up in spooky ways on both sides of this beef for years to come. From here, G Money kept taking shots at YoungBoy and the NBA crew whenever he could.
When you do this and do that and do that, you ain't sticking with a so you. I ain't tripping on no this and no none of that, you heard me? You, your mama, your brother, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, whoever. Way throwback, you heard me? I made you script and you ain't do nothing about it. So how you think you could tell me something?
And unfortunately, in some of these videos, G Money was also revealing his location, as he can be seen standing outside a building while claiming that YoungBoy suddenly turned into a supposed killer after getting his record deal.
Say, Lil, you know you ain't living like that, man. You get a deal and you done turn to a killer. When you start doing all that, man, you know you ain't cut like that, man. You know TBG been your muscle, boy. And the same you talking about usually don't live in jail wherever they at, man. That's the same ran you out of Nouveau in the city, man. Yeah, you remember Will? Yeah, Will's out there. Yeah, you remember you ran out that store, man. You know what's happening with us, man. You hear me? Real. And I'm living out shit, you hear me? Everything you got with a deal, I got that without a deal, man. You hear me? You know, 30 plus on my neck with no deal. Yeah, for real. Driving in $100,000 coupes and man. Yeah, with no deal, boy. You better stop playing and stay in your place, son.
People familiar with the city of Baton Rouge could likely recognize easily that he was standing in front of a local recording studio on the 1900 block of Dallas Drive, where TBG were known to record at. The very same studio was also featured prominently in the music video for G Money and Blvd Quick's track, Set Trippin'. Unfortunately for G Money, he massively underestimated two things. He underestimated how easy he was to find in the city, and he hugely underestimated YoungBoy and the NBA crew's willingness to kill to protect their budding empire. In the early morning hours of September the 10th, 2017, G Money was at that very same studio, seemingly recording another diss track aimed at YoungBoy, where he called the people's favorite rapper a liar. This would unfortunately end up being his last recording, as around 1:30 AM, G Money would step outside the studio building and take his last breath before he was ambushed and shot dead.
Baton Rouge police are looking into a deadly shooting that claimed the life of a local rapper. Police say someone shot and killed 22-year-old Garrett Burton on Dallas Street around 1:20 last night. Burton performed under the name G Money.
An alleged picture of the shooter at the scene would later circulate on Reddit. G Money's good friend Fat Chapo, who was with him at the studio the night of the murder, would later describe the evening's dark events in a later interview.
I was the first out the door. G walked out that door by himself. I told him before he walked out the door, like, and when I went to go get the slippers, he walked out the door on his own. And they start shooting. When they start shooting, I really didn't know what was going on because I heard a boom, but when as soon as the shooting stopped, I ran out the door. Nobody was still, I still never saw nobody. It was more like, you know what I'm saying, it f***ed me up instantly.
But just as chilling as the murder itself were the haunting details that came out afterwards. The day after G Money was killed, someone would go to the studio to document the murder scene, where they ended up capturing footage where bloody pillows could be seen laying on the ground. A picture of this pillow would also be posted on social media, where it would eventually go down in infamy as one of the most terrifying pieces of folklore about the Baton Rouge streets. This haunting image would start a wild rumor that G Money's killers had actually thrown a pillow and told him to go to sleep after shooting him dead. It's unclear exactly who started this dark rumor, but it had a powerful effect on the Baton Rouge streets. The word of the bloody pillow would spread all around Louisiana, and YoungBoy and the NBA crew would become notorious not just as shooters, but like action movie mobsters who left props at the scene of murders to send others a message. While the truth behind these pillows turned out to be nothing as cold and calculated as people on Reddit might have you believe, even this make-believe story would survive in infamy for years, and it made the NBA gang out to be like boogeymen in Baton Rouge. But the truth is, the pillows had most likely been used by medics who came to the scene to help G Money after the shooting, but it seems that YoungBoy and his team would take full advantage of this online folklore, and YoungBoy would later rap several lyrics where he referenced pillows in relation to murders, like in the 2020 song Step On, where he rapped that he would lay his ops' beds and throw them a pillow, and in the 2023 song Let's Do It, where he described his gang creeping up and laying their ops' head on a pillow when they kill them. In the music video for this song, YoungBoy even gets down and lays his head onto an actual pillow. The bloody pillow was a terrifying symbol of how far NBA members would take it if you got in their way, and as time went on, from this first murder, YoungBoy would continue to reference G Money, leaving cryptic warnings for anyone else who might gamble with their lives playing with the NBA. A new song titled Poor One would release about a month after G Money's murder and appeared to be explicitly dedicated to him, with YoungBoy starting his first verse, recalling a time when their bond felt more like a brotherhood before G Money shattered YoungBoy's trust by sleeping with his sister and bragging about it online. This was the first time one of NBA's rivals suffered deadly consequences in the streets after playing with YoungBoy, and he was not shy about reminiscing and talking openly about the person who had lost their life. Yet despite this being an open secret in the Baton Rouge streets, the authorities to this very day have struggled to truly get to the bottom of this case. It would take close to 2 years before they finally named any suspects in G Money's murder, but finally in June 2019, DeAndre Fields, better known on the streets as Lil Pap, or NBA Pap, will be charged with second-degree murder in connection to G Money's death.
DeAndre Fields, Baton Rouge police say they arrested him years after the shooting death of a local rapper, Garrett Burton. Back in 2017, Burton went by the name of G Money.
In his early music, YoungBoy had painted a picture of Pap as being one of his main shooters, and now here he was, accused of shooting YoungBoy's biggest rival dead. Lil Pap initially pled not guilty, and years later he would accept a plea deal on greatly reduced charges of accessory after the fact to murder, receiving a mere 5-year sentence. But interestingly, Pap would still swear to the judge and people close to him that he was innocent, and this sentiment was shared amongst G Money's close friends like TBG rapper Gyron Bang, who would also later claim several times publicly that Pap indeed wasn't G Money's killer.
Y'all started sending me that still sending it to her like, you seen it? You seen it? Yeah, I seen it. Police make arrests, may be wrong. A man ain't do that.
Do you know the guy that's being charged? Okay. You said that you didn't think the guy that they're charging with the murder actually did it.
No. YoungBoy's lyrics on the leaked song, Keeping It True, seem to echo this same sentiment, with him rapping how after an op died in the night, his brother kept it solid and didn't tell, even though he wasn't the shooter. Even G Money's own mother would post on social media after Pap's guilty plea that she also believed that he wasn't the actual killer of her son, leaving this first murder connected to YoungBoy and his squad of killers still shrouded in mystery, not only robbing G Money's family of justice, but also meaning that whichever NBA soldier who did kill G Money might still be walking the streets and stages behind YoungBoy to this day, being ready to kill again. There's of course been various rumors as to exactly what went down that night and who was responsible. G Money's mother would make a post on Instagram showing a picture of 3 prominent NBA members, TBG Freethrow, Ben 10, and Baby Joe, saying these were the 3 people that the police said killed her son. Other rumors would circulate, particularly on Reddit, where many have claimed that Pap indeed was not responsible, but was only connected to the case due to being caught with the gun that was used in the hit, while some have denied this. Some spread false rumors that YoungBoy might have killed G Money personally, but he apparently had the perfect alibi, playing a show in New York City at the Gramercy Theatre that very night. Other NBA members would be caught on live with Quando Rondo in 2018, including OG3, Ben 10, and off-screen, Baba Osama, who is heard saying that they're smoking on G Money before a frustrated OG3 ends the live abruptly.
Yeah, we smoking on G Money right now. What?
One far-fetched rumor circulating on Reddit suggested that NBA Herm and Baby Joe were actually the shooters, and that it was Ben 10 who threw the pillow and told him to go to sleep. Herm's name has been put forward by some on social media due to very suspect posts made by YoungBoy over the years, as well as the fact that he appeared right next to YoungBoy when he laid his head on the pillow in the music video for Bitch Let's Do It, as well as being on the original live that teased the song, with people commenting how crazy it was to rap these lyrics stood right next to the killer. Some believe that YoungBoy actually confirmed that Herm was responsible on social media during a feud with the rapper No Cap, where No Cap had apparently claimed that everyone in Baton Rouge was trying to claim the G Money murder, with YoungBoy responding that you must not know about the Black Sheep, referring to Herm's nickname, while others adamantly believe that actually it was Ben 10 who was truly responsible for the hit, which makes the fact that he was caught liking the IG posts of the mother of G Money's child all the more chilling. But even as the mystery continues, so does the disrespect, as G Money's grave has been vandalized numerous times, and G Money's mother still has no justice, as she heartbreakingly has posted him on her Instagram page every day for years. But sadly, she would only be the first of over a dozen mothers who would mourn the loss of their children. And the sad truth is that while G Money had been a direct threat to the budding Never Broke Again empire, some of those who lost their lives appear to have simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. The next body is one of the most debated when it comes to the alleged murders that YoungBoy has been connected to. On October the 26th, 2017, 19-year-old Erneisha Barnes was sitting in a parked car outside of a deli when she became caught in an altercation that would escalate into gunfire. Shots were fired from another vehicle, striking her multiple times, and she would later die from her injuries at the hospital.
We also have now learned the identity and the name of that 19-year-old woman. Police tell us that it was about 10:15 last night when an unknown suspect in a red Chevy Trailblazer fired several shots into a car with 19-year-old Erneisha Barnes sitting in the passenger seat. It happened near Gus Young and 48th Street. We're told that Barnes was actually taken to a local hospital where she later died.
YoungBoy's fans would later draw connections between several of his lyrics and Erneisha Barnes' death, most notably a leaked track titled Money Man, which featured YoungBoy describing a shooting where someone targeted a man named Hammer, but instead ended up striking his girlfriend. Allegedly, this was in retaliation for someone called Monkey shooting up be YoungBoy's grandmother's home. According to Reddit rumors, these lyrics reference YoungBoy's beef with a gang known as TMH, or Too Many Hitters, and particularly two of their main members, named Hammer and Monkey, the latter being better known as the rapper TMH 32 Shots, who's also been affiliated with YoungBoy's main rivals, the TBG crew. Erneisha, or simply Nisha as she was known, was allegedly Hammer's girlfriend, who had then supposedly gotten shot by YoungBoy or someone close to him as a revenge for Monkey first shooting up YoungBoy's grandmother's house, with Erneisha actually getting the nickname Hammer Girl on Reddit, where many posts have been made demanding justice for her. However, Monkey would deny having ever shot YoungBoy's grandmother's house years later in his song FAN. In another leaked song, YoungBoy would even seemingly mention Erneisha by name, using her nickname Nisha, while rapping how she had a baby but got killed in front of a corner store, while in yet another leaked song, he seemingly implied trying to kill his enemy but ending up killing his girlfriend before calling himself the Murder Man. YoungBoy continued to reference that same theme of accidentally shooting someone's girl for years to come. He would rap chilling lyrics on the 2023 song I Heard that someone got swerved on with their girl, she got hit, and he heard her take her last breaths. But despite fan theories that YoungBoy, or at least someone close to him, was responsible for this tragic murder, in actuality, already in October 2017, two people had been arrested in relation to the incident. 27-year-old Donnie Spencer, who was charged with first-degree murder for allegedly killing Erneisha in a drive-by shooting, and 30-year-old Ashley Taylor, who was charged with attempted second-degree murder and illegal use of a weapon for apparently shooting at another woman in the same spot just minutes before the fatal shooting that killed Erneisha.
Scotty Hunter tonight with the key thing that helped police make a very quick arrest.
The man accused of carrying out this year's record-breaking murder in Baton Rouge, 27-year-old Donnie Spencer, is behind bars tonight. As he was loaded off to prison, he had nothing to say except one thing: innocent. Spencer's charged with first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder after allegedly gunning down 19-year-old mother Erneisha Barnes last Thursday in a drive-by shooting on Gus Young at 48. His information put out on Friday. Roughly 72 hours later, he was picked up today by the U.S. Marshals Task Force.
Although Spencer had first claimed to be innocent, he would eventually plead guilty to manslaughter in 2019, and he was sentenced to 22 years in prison. But even this wouldn't convince some fans, who would still keep claiming that Spencer had simply taken the charge for YoungBoy and believing his earlier claims of innocence as validating this theory. While this more far-fetched and far-removed murder seems highly unlikely to be truly connected to YoungBoy directly, the next murder would echo the hit on G Money, as another prominent TBG member with rumored bodies of his own against NBA would unfortunately go out the very same way. One person that played an instrumental role in NBA YoungBoy's early career was Big Dump, aka Desmond Hardnett. Big Dump had reportedly worked for YoungBoy as an agent or manager, and simply working for YoungBoy had undoubtedly made Big Dump a target in Baton Rouge, but later lyrics from YoungBoy himself would reveal that there might have also been other reasons. For example, on the 2022 track Doctor, YoungBoy threatens to shoot up a car, just like Dump would do, something that he reiterates on the 2025 track 86 Prayers. These lyrics seem to imply that Dump wasn't just a businessman, but also somebody that had a reputation in the streets and had personally participated in shootings, making him a target on multiple fronts. Combine that with the rumors that he was the one who had put the bounty on G Money's head, and it's clear that TBG members would have wanted to take his life too. On May the 4th, 2018, at around 6 p.m, Baton Rouge police would respond to a drive-by style shooting on the 2200 block of Nairn Drive. According to news reports, Big Dump had been chatting with family and friends in his old neighborhood when someone pulled up in a vehicle and fired several shots, killing Dump and injuring the woman standing near him, while 5 or 6 witnesses watched on in shock.
Baton Rouge police say 29-year-old Desmond Hardnett died last night from his injuries. Police say Hardnett and a 32-year-old woman were both shot during a drive-by shooting yesterday afternoon. That happened near the corner of Nairn and Baywell. We're told the woman's injuries are not expected to be life-threatening.
Unfortunately, like many of the murders in Louisiana, Dump's murder was never officially solved, although YoungBoy's main rivals TBG would heavily imply being behind the hit. Just 2 months after Big Dump's murder, 2 of TBG's biggest remaining rap stars, Fredo Bang and Blvd would release a song called Body Bag, where Fredo opens up by rapping how they pull up on an op and dump the whole clip, before interestingly mentioning putting someone's friend in a grave because they had dropped some knots, which could indeed refer to the rumor that G Money had a $100,000 bounty on his head put up by Big Dump before the murder went down, and they would go on to brag how they had caught someone right outside the house, the exact circumstances of Dump's murder. Blvd would again go after YoungBoy in his camp a month later on his song called And One, opening up the track by telling his ops to keep his friend's name out their mouth, likely meaning G Money, and telling them to go and dig their partner up, likely referring to Dump, while later rapping that he heard people are looking for him because someone lost his soul, before throwing a Dump ad-lib there for good measure, just to make it extra clear exactly who he was talking about. But Quick would also hilariously give himself an alibi, rapping how he went to the movies and then went to see a girl while Dump's murder was taking place. And in both music videos, once again, a Chucky doll could also be seen, which at this point had become a way for TBG rappers to cryptically troll YoungBoy ever since that G-Money industry music video. And just like G-Money, Blvd Quick would also boast in several songs how he had heard around town that killers were looking for him, but he wasn't scared and still sliding, even ending his August 2018 music video for the song Never Lackin' by seemingly daring YoungBoy and his crew to try and catch him.
Yeah. That shot that nut in your mama. Pull up. Come out here. You know, TBG Gorilla Gang. Long live G Money. I'ma talk my shit. I don't hide behind money. Cause I ain't got that much. So I'm in the field. You can't be, money must be counterfeit. You drop the bag while I'm still breathing. I got breath in my body. Fake it, boy. Pull up.
But the last straw was when YoungBoy's mother, Sharonda, would participate in this beef personally, causing Blvd Quick to respond with a vulgar and unfiltered rant.
Fredo Bang and Quick wants to get YoungBoy. Fredo Bang and Boulevard Slow.
You look like a man, though. You look like a punk. Talking about me, I ain't Fredo. I speaks on everything. Boy, that mama. Play with me first.
This would cause YoungBoy himself to respond too. YB would warn Quick that this internet beef would end with him having the last laugh, saying that his ops are going to either die, go broke, or go to jail.
This internet shit ain't for long. I hope y'all stupid mother know that. It's either you gonna die, you either gonna be a bum, or you gonna be successful, or you gonna go to jail.
Then, on November the 26th, 2018, about 6 months after the murder of Big Dump, the Baton Rouge police would respond to Lakeside Villa Apartments just after 12:30 AM. There, they would find 25-year-old Ashton Wells, aka Blvd Quick, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, and he would be pronounced dead at the scene soon after. Although the news reports would acknowledge that Blvd Quick was already the second TBG rapper killed in recent years, the authorities had no suspect or motive. Interestingly, some people who followed a subreddit about Baton Rouge culture, not necessarily its gang culture, but the city at large, would even be aware of Blvd Quick's disrespectful attitude and murderous tendencies, showing even that everyday people living in the city would too be celebrating his death. But Blvd Quick's death was followed by numerous occasions of YoungBoy and his NBA 4K Trey affiliates dissing him and seemingly implying that they had been directly responsible for the murder. The day after Quick died, YoungBoy would appear on an IG Live while being in noticeably good spirits. He would rap lyrics from his upcoming track, My Mama Say, an interesting name for a song given that his mother had just been exchanging words with Quick, rapping that people keep talking about touching him, but they're the ones who keep ending up dead. The full song would drop the following month on YoungBoy's new project titled Realer, which included numerous lyrics that seem to imply that YoungBoy has people killed and is planning to use his newfound rap game riches to pay his shooters to keep killing people for him. He would rap specifically how he smokes up with his hitmen while plotting the next murder, and that they tell him that all behind YoungBoy they will kill people and that he will guarantee their check if they wet their targets. He would rap about the killers around him looking up to him and saying that he has bodies and that he hopes they don't catch up with him. In later songs, there would also be much more obvious references towards Blvd Quick specifically, like the song Impact, where YoungBoy rapped how someone dissed his mother, so he ended up killing them, and famously on the song 1.5, where he raps that his mother had told him to leave Quick dead for speaking on her. Also, other NBA members would participate in the dissing, like NBA Big B, who in several songs dissed someone fat who died, clearly referencing Quick, even including a cover art of himself literally smoking on Quick, while also rapping in the song that if there's money on someone's head, he promises to get the job done, strongly implying that he had something to do with Quick's death. Interestingly, this murder being November the 26th, 2018, about a week after fellow blood rapper 6ix9ine from New York would end up getting indicted by federal prosecutors for his role as a shot caller in the 9 Trey Bloods. Funnily enough, many people on Reddit at the time would speculate that the feds would likely soon be looking into NBA YoungBoy too, and speculating that there were 2 known murders and perhaps more unknown ones at this point in time. But despite the rumors and lyrics that seemed to tie the hit to infamous NBA member Big B, rumors would circulate on Reddit that the real killer was a lesser known affiliate of NBA known as Dede Blanco, a friend of YoungBoy's who was also a rapper himself. Some have suggested that the two might have actually carried out the hit together. YouTuber 3J Knows the Truth would claim to have been told by those in the know that these were the hitters and that Big B was the one who took the shot.
It was allegedly 2 people on the Boulevard Quick hit. Allegedly or whatever, it was Big B and Dede Blanco. Big B shot
or whatever, Boulevard Quick was walking outside, and when he made it to the parking lot, that's when he seen Big B. Quick tried to run. Boulevard Quick tried to run back in the house, and they hit him, or whatever. They hit him 2 times in the head. Big B and Dede Blanco killed Boulevard Quick. That's what somebody close to the situation DM'd me and told me. When Dede Blanco died, everybody started posting Boulevard Quick. When NBA Big B got shot, everybody started posting Boulevard Quick.
YoungBoy would post a picture on FaceTime with Dede Blanco, and it's rumored that this was only a short time before the murder of Quick. Unfortunately, Dede Blanco, real name Darian Carter, was gunned down in his car in North Foster Drive in Baton Rouge on June the 11th, 2021, and the police were unable to identify any suspects, with many believing that TBG member Gyron Bang posting a picture with Boulevard Quick right after the murder of Dede Blanco was confirmation that he was the one responsible. Rumors have since spread that this was a paid hit as retaliation for Boulevard Quick's murder. YoungBoy would pay tribute on the leaked 2021 song Northside Legend, calling Dede that very thing and saying RIP. And he even seemed to express remorse over the retaliation that took Dede's life on the song Letter to the North, where he raps about telling his mother to send $10,000 to Dede's mother. Some on Reddit have suggested that there was never retaliation for Dede Blanco's murder because he wasn't a true member of the NBA crew. But while YoungBoy later would use his music to express his pain and regret over the lives lost in the name of protecting the NBA empire, after these 3 murders, YoungBoy would begin rapping more and more with pride about his triple body count. At this point in time, YoungBoy had already become a well-established and prolific artist in the rap game, who was known for his unmatched work ethic, devoted fan base, and his unique and versatile style, which ranged from emotional auto-tune ballads, which his fans described as pain songs, as well as incredibly aggressive anthems designed for sliding on your ops, which his fans would describe as murder songs. And it would be this latter subgenre of murder music where YoungBoy would begin to talk more about his infamous body counts. Some of the first songs that mentioned specific numbers were seemingly made around 2019, not long after YoungBoy's killers had allegedly caught their 3rd victim, Boulevard Quick. One of these being a song known as All in My Way, which was supposedly recorded sometime in 2019, although it would only be leaked in November 2021. In this song, YoungBoy would rap that he has 5 bodies under him, but you have to subtract 2, possibly referring to the 2 attempted murders that he got after his cousin Boozilla's death, or the 2 losses that his own side had suffered, Big Dump and Boozilla. In another song called Murder Man, which was reportedly first played by YoungBoy's ex-girlfriend during an IG Live on November the 18th, 2019, YoungBoy seems to imply that he has 3 bodies, and that someone who talks shit about him on Instagram is going to be the 4th, with this likely referring to King Von, who had just recently dissed YoungBoy in March of that same year, suggesting that he'd been lying in his music.
YoungBoy talking about on this song, bro.
What?
He talking crazy on this man.
Oh yeah?
He ain't even like that.
Oh!
On his nah.
On his
cap. You got cap in your raps.
But more about what happened to Von later. But this was only the beginning, and only 2 years after this number had more than doubled, as he would claim on his King Von diss song Dead Trolls, by 2020, YoungBoy was claiming to have racked up 7 bodies. Ironically, the exact same number of bodies that King Von was rumoured to have, indicating that in 2020, there was actually a direct rivalry between the two on who had the most murders, with them actually seeming to be neck and neck in murder counts during this period. But who were these 4 people who YoungBoy had allegedly killed in less than a year in order to go from 3 to 7 bodies and catch up with King Von? Well, YoungBoy and his 4K Trey's growing affiliations with other gangs in Baton Rouge also brought them several new enemies that would end up supercharging the ongoing war in the city and rise the body count significantly. By the end of 2019, YoungBoy had a rumoured 3 bodies under his belt, but he was also killing it in the rap game. October 2019 would see him hitting 2 career milestones that he's still not surpassed. His highest charting hit single, Bandit, with Juice WRLD, and the release of, in my opinion, the greatest album in his catalogue and the best album in modern gangster rap, AI YoungBoy 2. If you want to know more about the industry success that YoungBoy was having around this time, go and check out the 6-hour video that I previously did on YoungBoy a couple of years ago. But behind the music industry success, things were getting very complicated in the streets for YoungBoy and his NBA label / gang. At this point, YoungBoy's street rivalries in his hometown had revolved almost completely around his years-long beef with his former friends in the crew TBG. However, coming into the 2020s, another deadly beef would emerge, which I've covered in depth on my second channel, Trap More Ross, this being the beef between 2 gangs known as the Vultures and the Bleeders. The Vultures come out of the so-called Bankstown hood on the north side, which is known as the Third World, while the Bleeders hail from the Glen Oaks neighborhood, also known as Oaktown, which is located to the east from Bankstown. YoungBoy's deadly street alliance 4K Trey would eventually become entangled in the beef between the Vultures and the Bleeders due to shared alliances and rivalries, as Bleeders became allied with TBG, while Vultures became very close with 4K Trey, with the most popular Vultures rapper, YKWHIFV, even receiving an NBA chain from YoungBoy personally. According to online rumors, the chain of events that sparked these new alliances allegedly begun with a murder that hit YoungBoy on a deeply personal level. The connection in this case leads back to yet another gang based in the Sherwood Forest neighborhood on the east side of Baton Rouge, which is most famously represented by B-Way Youngie, a popular rapper who is YoungBoy's actual little brother, with the two of them sharing the same father, while there's also a third brother known as D Gobbler. B-Way and D's gangs rep several different names, such as Goblin Gang or DHG, aka Dark Hearted Goblins, and they also rep the number 6 and are sometimes called simply the 6 or 600 or 6 the Crew. B-Way's gang had a long-time rivalry with a gang alliance known as 300, which was founded by youths from two different hoods, Mall City on the east side and Gardier aka G Lane on the far south side. On the afternoon of December the 2nd, 2019, 17-year-old Javon Brown aka Jay, an alleged member of the 300 alliance, had just got out of the school bus on Ottawa Drive when three teenagers began harassing him. What begun as a fistfight quickly escalated into gunfire, and within moments Brown was struck by a bullet and collapsed on the sidewalk.
Approached him, they started a fight with him, and during that fight, one of them pulled out a gun and shot him.
Brown was rushed to the hospital where he died early Tuesday morning.
Almost immediately, detectives began rounding up suspects connected to the attack, and within 48 hours, 3 teens were in custody, including a 16-year-old Kevin Anderson, who had himself gotten shot by accident during the incident, as well as YoungBoy's brothers B-Way Youngie, real name Jeffrey Tate, and D Gobbler, real name Devon Tate. B-Way faced charges of being a participant in the incident, while his brother was booked for allegedly being the triggerman.
The East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office saying that it was 18-year-old Devon Tate who pulled the trigger. His brother Jeffrey charged as a principal, both avoiding capture until Wednesday.
As Redditors later pointed out, the feud between B-Way's DHG crew and the 300 Alliance played a key role in drawing YoungBoy's 4K Trey gang into the war, once the 300 eventually aligned themselves with the Bleeders. And while YoungBoy himself had personally no part to play in this murder, people online considered this murder to have been the very first catalyst that started the war between these two alliances, that at this point included 4K Trey and DHG on one side and the Bleeders and 300 on the other. Meanwhile, according to more online rumors, B-Way's charges were eventually dropped, but his brother D remains in jail on charges stemming from Jay's murder and other incidents that took place while he was out on bond. 300's revenge for this murder would come already a few weeks later when 17-year-old Gervonta Taplin, also known as Tay6, an alleged member of the DHG gang, was killed in a Christmas Eve home invasion.
New at 5, this is our first look at the teenager killed early this morning in a shooting. His family tells us someone came inside Gervonta Taplin's home and shot him.
Tay6's alleged killer was arrested a few months later in February, and he would turn out to be 17-year-old Covarius Garner, aka Cutter or Juice, according to the newspapers, who had confessed the murder to the police while also admitting that he was a member of 300. But while the law had so far been quick to catch both sides of this rivalry, 300 was already about to lose another member, as yet another gang would get involved in the war. The next victim would be 17-year-old Gyron Bang, a promising young athlete and a rapper who was known by the stage name Gyron Bang. He was apparently active in the streets too, with pictures of him toting firearms and fist-fighting circulating on Reddit. On the evening of Saturday, February the 8th, 2020, Gyron had left his home to go and buy a birthday gift for his mother at the Mall of Louisiana, the largest mall in the state and a popular hangout spot for the local youths. According to comments on Reddit, he bumped into 3 of his ops in the mall, leading to a fistfight, Gyron getting the better of one of them. This led those youngsters to come back with guns, catching Gyron on a street outside the mall, where they opened fire. First responders would find him suffering from multiple gunshot wounds near an apartment complex close to the mall, and they would rush him to hospital, where he would later pass away from his injuries. According to local news, Gyron's friend later told investigators that the two had indeed gotten into an altercation with a group of teenagers inside the mall. Later, as they left and headed towards a nearby trampoline park, they would run into the same group again, and after a brief exchange of words, that's when one of the teens pulled the gun and shot Gyron. But what the news didn't mention was that Gyron wasn't just an aspiring rapper, but also an alleged member of the 300 Alliance, who could be seen in his music videos, repping the gang while toting massive guns. Less than a week later, the local news would report how Gyron's alleged killers were captured, these being 3 teenagers who the police had tracked immediately after the shooting.
14-year-old Bradley Payne, 15-year-old Iman Street, and 16-year-old Frederick Tate, all facing second-degree murder charges, linked to the shooting death of Gyron Bang.
These teens would all allegedly be affiliated with gangs that were 300's rivals, but most interesting Interestingly, one of them would turn out to be a youngster named Bradley Payne, who is now better known as the rapper 38 Young'un. He hails from the very same area where YoungBoy himself grew up, around the 38th Street on the north side, and repping a gang known as the Northside Rangers, or NSR, which according to some Redditors is part of YoungBoy's 4K Trey alliance. And 38 Young'un himself is seemingly very well connected to people close to YoungBoy, even having made a song together with one of NBA's main members, Ben 10. Following Gyron's death, particularly many members of DHG, the gang that was repped by YoungBoy's brothers B-Way and D, would diss Gyron mercilessly on social media due to their own beef with 300.
This little man.
Damn, that nigga wanted to join 6 and yeah.
Damn, man. Rest in peace. Trying to hit the purple, son? You ain't trying to hit the purple, son? Man, you trying to hit the purple, son? Shut up. I bet. Well, we're gonna roll you up in that purple then, son. Straight up.
B-Way himself would also seemingly participate in the dissing, like in his April 2021 song Goblin Gang, where he raps how he's never going broke again, adding that ish dead, just like Bang, which appears to be a targeted diss towards Gyron based on his rap name, Gyron Bang. Also, 38 Young'un himself has seemingly dissed Gyron in his music too, like in a song and music video that's since been deleted, where he raps how he smokes such strong weed that it makes him see J, B, and C, with J seemingly being a reference to J, aka Javon Brown, while B refers to Gyron Bang. C, on the other hand, refers to yet another dead 300 member called Chris, real name Christopher Fields, who was allegedly killed by his own friend. The two other suspects in the murder of Gyron, Iman Street, aka Mond, and Freddie Tate, aka Tay Huncho, would later be convicted in the case, with Tate pleading guilty in 2022 after having the charges reduced, while Street also eventually pled guilty to reduced charges in 2024, still facing up to 30 years in prison. 38 Young'un's charges, on the other hand, were seemingly dropped, but he would be back in the news in 2023 when he and others were charged with allegedly committing crimes as part of a gang, known according to the local news as Never Broke Again Northside Rangers, this name obviously suggesting that the crew had branched off the original NBA crew around the 38th Street that was led by YoungBoy, with all this showing that if anything, 38 Young'un's ties to YoungBoy and NBA and his 4K Trey crews had only grown stronger.
Members of a Baton Rouge street gang were formally charged. Bradley Payne, Jermonte Clark, Twain Bridgewater, and 3 juveniles were accused of being part of the NBA Northside Rangers. A grand jury indicted the 6 teens on charges within the criminal street gang statute in an effort to make the charges stick.
On Reddit, some users have claimed that Gyron's murder ended up escalating the city's gang war significantly, and while it's not clear whether that's true or not, the killing in the city would certainly reach its peak during the early 2020s. But while these younger, YoungBoy-sanctioned NBA crash-outs were stoking these new deadly beefs, the 6th murder that occurred under YoungBoy's watch was much more personal. The 6th body traces back to YoungBoy's early childhood when his best friend Lil Dave, real name David Cobb, was shot and killed at just age 16 during a so-called Rest in Peace picnic held in honor of another slain youth in 2010. Lil Dave's killer was never caught, and according to police, the murder investigation was particularly hindered by the community's unwillingness to cooperate with them. YoungBoy would continue to honor Lil Dave's memory in his music, but he would also rap about his desire for revenge, like in his 2015 track Homicide, where he promised that once they catch the person that killed Lil Dave, he will die, and in the 2016 track R.I.P. Lil Dave, where he promised revenge for what was done to Lil Dave. However, there would be a drastic shift in the way that YoungBoy rapped about Lil Dave 2 months into 2020. In his unreleased 2020 track, Hold 13, YoungBoy raps that they killed Lil Dave when he was 12, but once he made 20, he knocked the killer's face off. The line made 20 could be seen as a reference to either YoungBoy reaching the age of 20, or perhaps racking up a net worth of $20 million by this point, or possibly even paying $20,000 to avenge Lil Dave. He would also expand on this in his other songs, like rapping in his 2024 track Missing Everything that he had a flunky pop the person that killed Lil Dave, while in a leaked song called Yesterday, he raps how his life is not anything like it was in the old days because he doesn't need to get revenge for Lil Dave's death anymore. On another leaked song titled Fighting Demons, YoungBoy would rap how he woke up one morning and heard that somebody had caught the boy that killed Lil Dave, and described frantically calling Ben 10 for an update on the situation and being disappointed to find out they didn't hit him in the head with more than one bullet. Online rumors would eventually connect these lyrics to a shooting that took place on March 1st, 2020. That night, at around 7:40 p.m, 28-year-old Lewis Cryer was standing outside on the 6700 block of Cambridge Street when a car rolled past and someone opened fire. Cryer was hit multiple times and rushed to the hospital, where he would later die of his injuries.
Well, police are trying to get to the bottom of a drive-by shooting in Baton Rouge. Someone shot Lewis Cryer on Cambridge Street Sunday evening. That's just north of Airline Highway.
In the streets of Baton Rouge, Louis Cryer went by the nickname Scoota, and allegedly he belonged to a gang known as the Young Goons, or YGs, who were the previous generation generation from the Bankstown hood before the Vultures got started. This gang was indeed long rumored to have been responsible for the murder of Lil Dave, with Reddit rumors even pointing to a specific 4K Trey member known as NBA Q, aka Lil Q, as being the person who avenged Lil Dave for YoungBoy. He would be someone that YoungBoy would shout out several times in his songs for being a shooter, apparently part of a deadly duo with another 4K Trey member called Big E, aka Chopper Boy, with one post circulating on Reddit claiming that Q has 3 bodies while Chopper Boy has just one, and one infamous 2017 YoungBoy lyric would describe the duo carrying out a hit for him, saying that they run down their ops with a special delivery from YoungBoy. However, officially, the case of Scoota's murder remains unsolved, but all of these lyrics paint a vivid picture of this murder just being another part of YoungBoy's reputation as the infamous murder man of Baton Rouge, and Reddit commenters are convinced that YoungBoy was directly responsible for calling this hit, with lyrics from the leaked song Hurt Somebody, aka Out My Body, seeing YoungBoy appearing to take credit for avenging Lil Dave and referencing someone called Jordan lining it up. Now, YoungBoy was seemingly using his rap riches to settle old scores from the streets of Baton Rouge from 10 years ago, but it would seem that despite the NBA crew reaching the upper echelons of the rap game, this didn't mean their long-running and biggest ops from TBG would be spared. During 2019 and 2020, the beef between NBA and TBG would reach deadly new heights. On songs, YoungBoy kept throwing shade at his old friends, like in the song Free D-Dog, released in April 2019, where he seems to imply that TBG used to run Baton Rouge, but now they can't claim that anymore, while proudly bragging how he had been getting so many people killed that he had made the whole city of Baton Rouge mad at him for putting so many big bags on people's heads. Unsurprisingly, TBG wasn't about to let this kind of disrespect go unpunished. The following month in May, YoungBoy was booked to perform at Rolling Loud, the biggest rap festival series in the country, where his name would be found on the 4th row of Sunday's performers. It's hard to imagine YoungBoy being so low on the billing now in 2025 when he's selling out stadiums back to back, but at this time in his career, he was still just a young and hungry rising star. And the festival taking place that year in Miami was stacked with other rap stars, many of these being the rap game's biggest artists at the time, descending on Florida to perform, including the likes of Lil Durk, Lil Wayne, 21 Savage, Kodak Black, and Chief Keef. Funnily enough, one of the other artists who was there was Young Thug, the very same person who, according to some rumors, had actually blessed YoungBoy's 4K Trey gang into the official Money Murder Blood Gang umbrella. Early Friday morning, as YoungBoy was allegedly out partying with Young Thug, a shooting would take place on an interstate highway. TMZ would break the story, reporting how the target of the shooting had been Young Thug, but other outlets like the Miami Herald would later report how YoungBoy had also been present. A couple months later, in June 2019, one of TBG's main rappers and alleged main shooters, Lit Yoshi, would release a song titled Cutter, where he would drop some very interesting bars about him and another TBG rapper, Seven Hardaway, catching their ops on an interstate and adding how Seven was driving while Yoshi was shooting, with fans on Reddit later connecting these lyrics to that Friday morning shootout. But unfortunately for YoungBoy, his troubles in Miami were just getting started, and only a few days later, on Sunday the 12th of May, when he was supposed to be taking the stage at Rolling Loud, he was targeted by shooters in broad daylight at one of the most high-profile hotels in the whole of Florida, the Trump International Hotel and Beach Resort in Sunny Isles. As online sleuths would later put together, YoungBoy had made a crucial mistake, leaving his geolocation on whilst tweeting, giving up his location to his ops. And as he and his entourage were about to make their way to the festival, they would be ambushed outside the hotel by assailants who pulled up in a black Cadillac Escalade. As shots were fired from the Escalade in the direction of YoungBoy's entourage, it would trigger an immediate return of fire from members of his own NBA team who were carrying their own weapons. From here, complete chaos ensued, as gunslingers from both parties engaged in a Wild West-style shootout in the middle of a busy tourist hotspot. By some miracle, YoungBoy would again escape unscathed, while his girlfriend at the time would get hit on the shoulder, and 3 bystanders would also be grazed, including a 5-year-old child. But most tragically, however, one of the stray bullets would end up hitting a bystander named Mohammed Girardi, who would pass away from his injuries. After the shootout was over, and before the police and the news media would take over the crime scene, YoungBoy would somehow manage to flee the scene and still make it to his performance at Rolling Loud, before he was ultimately hunted down by the police and arrested for violating his probation for allegedly taking part in the return of fire. When it came to the actual assailants, on the other hand, the Miami police were quick to make the connection that they were likely YoungBoy's rivals from his home state of Louisiana, but their exact identities and motives would remain unknown for some time, although the online sleuths were quick to notice how Lit Yoshi had been posting himself on social media sliding around Miami, armed with the exact weaponry that the police would later connect to the shooters. Coming into 2020, the war would continue back in Baton Rouge, where on the 22nd of March 2020, a shooting would occur at the family home of 37-year-old NBA affiliate named Travis Parker, known in the streets as T-Baby. T-Baby was shot and killed, while a 62-year-old woman believed to be his mother would be wounded, but survived. In the aftermath of the shooting, fans would notice that TBG rapper Gyron Bang appeared to be trolling 4K Trey member YMM Captain by liking his tribute tribute post to T-Baby, possibly hinting at TBG's involvement in the murder. Just like after Dump's killing, when Blvd Quick was gunned down only months later in what many saw as retaliation, the revenge was about to come again, only this time it would only take 1 week. On Sunday the 29th of March 2020, a 36-year-old man was found shot to death in front of a Food Mart and gas station on the north side of Baton Rouge. Police would later identify the man as Jason Nixon, a well-known TBG affiliate better known by his nickname Dutch, who had often been seen alongside TBG artists like Fredo Bang, Lit Yoshi, and Boulevard Sleepy. Dutch was also apparently known in the streets of Baton Rouge as a certified stepper who had been putting work in for likely a couple of decades at this point. TBG members would post numerous tributes to Dutch on social media, while NBA and 4K Trey affiliates were exhilarated, with BBG Baby Joe immediately posting a story on Instagram with a caption saying how he knew that TBG were hurting, together with a foot emoji implying that 4K Trey had stepped on them, while Ben 10 would later rejoice during an Instagram live, pointing out how TBG now had 3 dead members who they can't get back.
Man, my kitty can't walk. Hey, what fan? Your brother dead. 3 on dead, out 3.
They can't get him back.
Yeah, shit. What you say?
Also in online theories, 4K Trey has commonly been connected to at least 3 murders against TBG, the murder of Dutch being the 3rd. YoungBoy himself would also make a similar reference in a song called 4K Trey 3-Style, which was officially released in 2022, but the actual recording time is somewhat unclear, with some sources claiming the song was actually recorded all the way back in 2019. But in the song, YoungBoy raps how his TBG ops were repping off of one body that they caught from NBA, being Big Dump, whereas YoungBoy's gang had killed 3 of their homies, G Money, Blvd Quick, and TBG Dutch. The most interesting lyrics from YoungBoy, however, would be on the song Trapped Out, which would be officially released on the 2025 compilation album More Leaks, but the song itself is likely much older. On this track, YoungBoy first appears to reference the shooting in Miami, saying how they shot his whole car up before an infamous NBA member named Baba would step in. Baba, according to the wildest online rumors, is an actual contract killer with a rumored 10+ bodies, and according to these lyrics, he's the one who shot back and got the enemy off of YoungBoy in the shootout at the Trump Hotel. Baba, real name Osama Eugene Manuel, and YoungBoy would indeed both be later charged in relation to the shooting by Mohammed Jaradi's family in a civil court, which actually named Baba Osama as YoungBoy's official security guard. But after these lyrics, YoungBoy then continues rapping how people must have also heard about someone who got killed while pumping gas, saying how he pointed him out and got him out, which could in fact be seen to be yet another reference to Dutch, the implication being that Dutch was in fact killed at a gas station as retaliation for that Miami shooting. In online rumors, certain specific 4K Trey members have even been connected to the murder, like Herm from NBA and Chine from the Vultures, with some Baton Rouge drillologists even making dedicated posts labeling Herm as the killer of Dutch. Both Herm and Chine have also participated in dissing Dutch personally following his death, with Herm rapping in his 2022 song Puff Puff how people say that he's a killer and how someone was acting like it was smoke until Herm and his partners rolled him up. Herm then making a devilish play on words by saying that he's now smoking a big Dutch, a double entendre referring to both the Dutch Master's blunt raps and TBG Dutch himself. Chine, on the other hand, would make several social media posts dissing Dutch, in one Instagram story making his own version of the lyrics of Lil Durk's song Should've Ducked, where Durk raps how he gets as high as Duck, referring to his dead rival FBG Duck, with Chine writing how he gets as high as Dutch. In another post, he would take the disrespect even further, actually taking a picture at the very gas station where Dutch was killed, while adding a caption saying how he was at the same location where a gorilla had taken his last breath, referring to Dutch's status as a member of the TBG, aka Top Boy Gorillas. In his song Chase Down, Lit Yoshi would also rap some interesting lyrics that seem to point squarely at NBA and 4K Trey, as he first pays tribute to Dutch before saying how TBG caught someone in Yoshi's hood and did a drill, specifically mentioning a Jeep. Now, it's not exactly clear whether Yoshi means that he was sliding in a Jeep or his victims were, but interestingly, there was indeed one incident on April the 6th, 2020, only about a week after Dutch's murder, where Lit Yoshi and another man, allegedly Seven Hardaway, were caught on CCTV arriving at an apartment complex on the north side of Baton Rouge with a Jeep Cherokee, before allegedly opening fire on 3 people, one of these being none other than NBA member Lil Pap, real name DeAndre Fields, who would eventually be charged with the murder of G Money. Clearly then, Yoshi's lyrics seem to point to him very much holding NBA responsible for Dutch's murder. Still, officially the murder has remained unsolved, and even almost a full year after the murder in February 2021, local news would report how the police were still looking for a motive. Lit Yoshi himself, on the other hand, would eventually be charged with the shooting of Lil Pap, and many others, getting hit with a staggering 7 counts of attempted murder, with even the Miami shooting targeting YoungBoy eventually becoming part of the case. And he would eventually plead guilty, receiving a 15-year sentence that he has since tried to get overturned unsuccessfully. But despite one of the most fearsome shooters from TBG being being taken off the streets, YoungBoy's battles were far from over, and no doubt, the attention he was getting from his ops in the streets was only made worse by the frequent lyrics that he was dropping, bragging about being responsible for these murders. In 2020, YoungBoy dropped several songs where his body count seemed to rise rapidly. Of course, this was likely because many of those tracks just happened to drop that year, not because of all the murders actually occurred during that time. In April 2020, the song Step On was released, together with a music video to promote YoungBoy's 38 Baby 2 mixtape that dropped later that month. In the song, YoungBoy claimed to now have 4 bodies, which based on our list so far, could be referring to any combination of them, depending on when this song was recorded. Then, in September 2020, YoungBoy dropped the song Big Bankroll as part of his Top album. However, according to Genius, this song was actually already teased by YoungBoy as far back as July the 29th, 2019. In this song, YoungBoy appeared to imply to already have 5 bodies, and by late 2020, the public body count had grown to 7, as mentioned on the song Hurt Somebody, which YoungBoy reportedly premiered on his Instagram Live on August the 22nd, 2020. However, the much more famous example is of course the song Dead Trolls, which he released on the same Top album as the song Big Bankroll, dropping the music video for the song the same day the album was released in September 2020. Here, YoungBoy even specifies that all of these 7 murders supposedly happened in his hometown of Baton Rouge. Interestingly, the song has been seen as a diss towards the rapper King Von, who YoungBoy was beefing heavily with around this time, and King Von would famously also claim to have 7 bodies of his own. Now, I'm pretty much the internet's leading expert on King Von at this point, as I broke down all 7 of his rumored murders that he'd been involved in a 3.5-hour video where I labeled him a serial killer. It's my personal opinion that King Von did indeed personally murder 7 people as part of his own participation in a Chicago gang war. However, if you want to go as far as to include murders that he might have ordered, like that of Tuckerville's Man Man, aka Get Right, or murders that he allegedly funded, like the hit on FBG Duck, you could make an argument that he might be responsible for 9 to 12 murders. But during 2020, when Von burst onto the scene amid claims that he had 7 bodies under his belt, he quickly became the most buzzing gangster rapper in the scene. This just so happened to be the time when YoungBoy was beginning to drop lyrics where he too would brag about having 7 bodies. It seems to me that there was a degree of insecurity on both sides when it came to Von and YoungBoy, leading to a twisted rivalry and competition about who was the biggest killer. But with YoungBoy, it's safe to say that things are much more complicated, because as he has also said in his songs, he wasn't the actual trigger man in any of these murders, but rather just the one paying for them. I believe that King Von disliked YoungBoy because he didn't believe his claims of having bodies to be valid, considering that he was paying hitmen and claiming the murders his crew was doing, unlike King Von, who had seemingly got his hands dirty and personally killed 7 times. Unfortunately, the rivalry between YoungBoy and Von would get very complicated, as Von would provoke YoungBoy by taking photos with the mother of his child, Jania. Interestingly, after this, one of YoungBoy's most feared enforcers, NBA Ben 10, would actually promise to kill Von for what Jania did with him, but ultimately, that wouldn't even be necessary, as unfortunately, King Von underestimated the situation when he attempted to embarrass YoungBoy by beating up his artist, Savannah rapper Quando Rondo, who had signed to the NBA label. As the story goes, Quando was being protected that night by Lil Tim, a notorious shooter in his own right with rumored bodies of his own in his home city of Savannah, Georgia. Lil Tim ended up shooting Von dead that night, protecting Quando Rondo's safety and arguably YoungBoy's reputation. But for the purposes of this video, we're not going to count King Von's killing as a body on YoungBoy's tally. YoungBoy has certainly taken a liking to Lil Tim as a result of this though, seemingly bringing him on the Massa tour and using him as frontline protection after seeing him prove himself on Von. But even brushing aside taking out Chicago's most feared killer and adding yet another certified killer to his own entourage, unfortunately for YoungBoy's enemies, his contract business would seemingly continue like clockwork, because within 2 years of King Von's death, the number of bodies that he claimed responsibility for had almost doubled, rising to a staggering 12 bodies by 2022. The year that this song dropped, where he claimed to have 12 bodies, was an incredibly violent year, where an insane total of 6 of YoungBoy's enemies would all end up losing their lives back to back. The summer of 2020 in gangster rap was truly a battle of the bodies, with both King Von and YoungBoy puffing out their chests and setting the internet on fire by both claiming to have been responsible for 7 murders. Despite King Von being the more certified killer with documented proof of his back-to-back murders, he was unfortunately caught out of bounds and ended up losing his life, just like many did before him, by underestimating the ruthlessness of NBA, 4K Trey, and their affiliates nationwide. But in the end, even with King Von out of the picture, YoungBoy wasn't satisfied with being top of the killer rapper leaderboard and vowed to add more bodies to his tally. He famously rapped the chilling lines in his 2021 song Forgiato that a rapper, most likely Von, wanted him dead but he'd taken their soul, and that at this point he had over 7 kills to his name and intended to surpass 10 bodies so that he could begin counting murders on his toes. And in the summer of 2021, there would be yet another murder that's been connected to YoungBoy's 4K tray, but this one has by and large remained a mystery with very little information available online. But here's what we do know. On the night of June the 11th, 2021, 18-year-old Cornell McDuffie, also known in his circle as Nell, was involved in a single car crash on East I-10 near Essen Lane around 11:34 p.m. Immediately following the crash, officers found McDuffie lying in a grassy area near the crash scene, while 3 others attempted to flee on foot. Subsequently, the 3 people were arrested, but they were uncooperative, while McDuffie was transported to a nearby hospital where he later died from his injuries. The police connected the crashed car to a shooting that had taken place right before the crash about 3 miles west on the 2200 block of Ballish Drive, which is why the local newspaper The Advocate would first report that Nell had died due to a gunshot wound. However, an autopsy would reveal no gunshot wounds, meaning that Nell's fatal injuries were in fact from the car crash itself. Following Cornell's death, his balloon release was held in Gardeer, one of the strongholds of the 300 Alliance, and later on, members of 300, including their perhaps most well-known rapper, Gyron Bang, would engage in an interesting conversation with some 4K tray members on the Clubhouse app, during which YoungBoy's alleged cousin, Dede, aka Scully, seemed to reference a shooting incident like the one that had preceded Nell's death, but calling the dead person Cornelius, possibly mispronouncing Cornell's name while saying that he had put the iron on that boy and gunned him down.
Hey, look, hanging out the one that's trying to flush him on the interstate. I'm telling you.
Hey, now you were hanging out that window. So now you were hanging out that window.
Hey, say.
Pull up that 06.
Hey, look. Hey, call Ben. Call him.
Man, you boy. Ain't your work, man. Stop rapping.
I don't do no rapping. I don't got to rap.
Hey, and I put your people Cornelius up.
Hey, where you at?
Put your hand on that boy.
Yeah, man. You ain't kill that man. You ain't kill that man. You hit that man in his leg.
Trying to gun them down. Hit him with that
flash. Hit him with that. He's in the leg for dancing around this. This for real, man.
Hey, say
come on, man. Hey, man, we.
Hey, say that. Thought he was spinning, nigga, chase them down. Now he in the grave.
Hey, Shay, y'all be going to the most man, who gang these boys? Like,
put your people on here. Yeah, man, put that iron on the plate like I'm blind.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah. Waiting on the talk to you, boy.
Where you at? Where you at?
Because of this, even Redditors would claim Dee to be the killer of Cornelius, although it seems that in reality, whether Dee had been part of the shooting incident that preceded Nell's death, the real cause of his death was the car crash. Gang Dee's nickname Scully is something he seems incredibly proud of, and during interviews he's inferred that he earned this nickname through either shooting someone in the skull or catching a skull via a shooting.
The nickname Scully.
From that first answer, from this tattoo, I'm just saying like that. The gun, shooting the skull.
Yeah.
It's good.
Perhaps he's referring to a different murder, or maybe he's false claiming the murder of Cornell, but arguably, if shooting the car up caused the death directly, then you could argue it's legitimate for him to claim responsibility for the murder. But what we do know is that Scully had discussed numerous incidents where he was shot and almost lost his life, as he proudly states that at least one person who shot him is indeed dead.
That situation when you got shot in the face, that was the craziest that you...
That dead.
Oh.
He ain't coming back. You just leave him in the past. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Another 4K tray member called Gang Taylife, or Tayski, whose name will become very familiar as this video progresses, also rapped in his 2024 song Blockbender, featuring the young 4K tray affiliate 38 Young'un, how someone had tried to follow them on the interstate, so they shot them with a Draco, seemingly describing the events that preceded the death of Nell. Ultimately, before the year would come to an end, the 4K tray shooters would allegedly catch one more body, this being yet another occasion where the motive for the murder went years back, proving that when it comes to NBA 4K tray, Get Back really has no expiry date. Like the murder of Lil Dave's alleged killer, the motive of the next murder would also stem back to YoungBoy's past, more specifically, the murder of his cousin Bleeda in November 2016. The murder was never officially solved, but rumors quickly began circulating who might have been responsible. One name that surfaced early was FL Dutt, a rapper from a clique called Forever Loyalty, who would later become closely affiliated with TBG, with Dutt dropping numerous songs with TBG artists like Fredo Bang and Lit Yoshi. Dutt and Bleeda had been beefing heavily in the lead up to his death, with Bleeda dissing Dutt in his July 2016 song Forgive Me, rapping how Dutt was scared to walk through the South and that they were laying down the law in their area. And following Bleeda's death, the comment section of the song's music video would fill up with replies mocking him for making these statements, which implied that Dutt had in fact not been scared to walk through the South and had in fact come through to kill Bleeda. But despite these rumors, Dutt was never officially connected to Bleeda's murder. In early 2017, the Baton Rouge police would arrest two men in connection to the murder, Trayshawn Coates and Monty Carey, but these arrests wouldn't amount to much, as both men were ultimately not indicted by the grand jury, who left the door open for more evidence to be found in the future. Unfortunately, such evidence would seemingly never come, and officially the case remains unsolved. However, on the 10th of December 2021, a murder would take place that, at least in online theories, would later be connected to the murder of Bleeda. That night around 6 p.m, a 22-year-old man named Michael Riley was gunned down while sitting in a car at the intersection of River Road and Brightside Drive. But what would make this murder particularly tragic was that Riley had been sitting on the backseat of the car together with his 5-year-old nephew, who would also get hit during the shooting, and both Riley and his nephew would die from their injuries.
We're told the victims were 22-year-old Michael Riley and his nephew, 5-year-old Carson Riley. Officials say both victims were passengers in a car.
The police would soon come to a conclusion that this had been a targeted attack, but they weren't aware of any suspects or motives.
Individuals that pulled up next to this vehicle and opened fire intended to shoot the individuals that were in this car.
Police not yet able to pinpoint a motive or any suspects. This, the latest investigation in a record year for homicides.
This double murder too has gone unsolved, but online sleuths would eventually come up with some interesting theories. A key role in these theories points to yet another 4K Trey affiliate called BB4L Nolan, a son of a legendary underground rapper from Baton Rouge called Percy Keith, and allegedly a nephew of none other than the rapper Kevin Gates. Nolan had been making a career as a rapper since about 2019, when he was released from juvie at just 14 years old, but it was his 2022 song, Come Here, that would pique the interest of online sleuths, as he rapped some truly wild lyrics about catching someone in traffic before adding how it's F that little boy too. The streets would talk, and eventually rumors began spreading online that these lyrics were Nolan talking about the murder that was Get Back for Bleeda. And given how detailed these lyrics were, it was only a matter of time before they were connected to the double murder of Michael Riley, who was also known by his nickname Smizz, as well as the death of his nephew. But the most shocking thing is that YoungBoy himself would allegedly mention and confirm these murders in songs that released over the next year. The first example came only 2 months later in the track Neighborhood Superstar from his joint album with DaBaby titled Better Than You. In this song, YoungBoy would brag about turning the beats of his music into homicides and ending his second verse outright saying that he left 9 bodies in his town. However, the hit on Smizz that took the life of his 5-year-old nephew would seemingly be directly referenced much later in his December 2022 song titled This Not a Song, This For My Supporters, where YoungBoy updates his body count to 12 before adding how there's also 1 child dead, who YoungBoy seemingly isn't including in his overall body count, this child allegedly being the nephew of Riley. With YoungBoy then adding how he said to stop the violence, almost as if implying that his body count is not something he wants to brag about, but rather just the unfortunate reality of the situation that his gangster rap career had placed him in. This song appeared to echo a broader message that YoungBoy had been pushing in late 2022. Around the same time, in November, he even posted a somewhat strange video on social media, grinning from ear to ear while repeatedly urging his followers to stop the violence, which some people took as a serious plea, while others thought that YoungBoy was simply trolling.
Hey, stop the violence. Hey, look at me. I could promise you it's a bigger side of life. Stop the violence. You could be a rich, you hear me? I could promise you. I'm talking about, I ain't gonna tell you what's in my bank account, but hey, stop the violence. You hear me? Thank you.
The song, This Not a Song, This For My Supporters, as a whole is one of the strangest songs in YoungBoy's discography, consisting of over 8 minutes of YoungBoy's rapping and talking that often sounds like a pure stream of consciousness, as YoungBoy then continues the lyrics by implying that he doesn't actually want to beef with his ops and hurt them, before seemingly giving his quick analysis of violence in Baton Rouge, connecting it to the city's crippling poverty. He then asks for forgiveness from God, saying how he misled some people, perhaps referring to both his fans who might be influenced by his popular murder music and his young shooters back in Baton Rouge that had been killing people in the name of his 4K Trey gang, such as BB4L Nolan, who would end up catching an unrelated murder charge in the summer of 2025. The fans weren't necessarily buying the stop the violence message though, suggesting that this was really just a self-centered effort to shake off attention from three-letter agencies like the FBI and ATF that might have been looking into these bodies, while one local member would even note how YB was too up on the scoreboard to now be preaching about peace. But whether YoungBoy was being serious or not, his message was likely influenced by the events of 2022, when the violence around 4K Trey would surge into overdrive, starting with the beef between two gangs mentioned earlier, the Vultures and the Bleeders, who had already gotten into a war in 2021 that ended up claiming a staggering number of people in less than 1 year, eventually also drawing in YoungBoy's 4K Trey, causing a gruesome double murder in early 2022 that would shock the entire city. Now, if you want to learn more in depth about the beef between the Vultures and the Bleeders in Baton Rouge, check out the earlier videos I did about this gang war on my other channels. But for the purposes of this video, let's keep things short. According to Reddit historians, the beef between these two gangs was a result of the Bleeders affiliating with gangs that the Vultures were already beefing with. One of these gangs is known as SOG, or Sleep or Grind, from Sherwood. According to some theories, things escalated after the Vultures would rob one of SOG's members of their chain, which they would then brag about on social media, with an original Reddit post from the 19th of April 2021 showing the Vultures rapper YKWHIFV posting a picture of the chain together with the caption, "What's this?" This would allegedly cause an SOG member called Sherwood Marty, an old affiliate of TBG members like G Money, to put a bounty on Vultures members' heads. And only 4 days later, on the 23rd of April, a man named Aaron Batiste, also known as Zip from the Vultures, was shot and killed on the 12,000 block of Plank Road after he had just celebrated his 29th birthday. His killer was seemingly never caught, but the Bleeders would take part in dissing him, like the rapper Hotboy Do, who would make an Instagram caption thanking God for letting him see 20 because he knew someone who had died on their birthday. The revenge would seemingly come only 2 days later, when 25-year-old Devonta Ennis, aka Vitae from the Bleeders, was gunned down on the north side, and his alleged killer was arrested and eventually even convicted of this murder, before the conviction was ultimately overturned in 2025. But regardless of who was really behind this murder, the Bleeders blamed the Vultures, and what followed was a brutal wave of alleged back-to-back revenge killings, which would also eventually drag in the NBA 4K Trey crews directly into this deadly rivalry. The first get back took place on October 2021, when 25-year-old Jermorius Ferguson, a brother of the Vulture rapper YKWHIFV, and another member known as Debug, was outside of a home in East Baton Rouge when someone shot at him from a passing vehicle, injuring him seriously, and he would eventually pass away months later. The police later noted that they didn't consider Ferguson to have been the intended target of the shooting, perhaps implying that V or Debug might have been the actual targets of the shooting. Later that month, the Bleeders allegedly struck again when 23-year-old Malakar Demulin, better known as the rapper YKWHIF Car, was shot in his car in a Holiday Inn parking lot. This was followed 3 days later by the murder of the rapper and SOG member Mu Gotti, real name Jamonte Davis. At this point, 4K Trey were already indirectly involved in the beef through their close connections with certain Vultures members and their rivalry with the 300 Alliance, who in turn had become affiliated with the Bleeders, and who at this point weren't just directly beefing with YoungBoy's brothers gang, the DHG, but also openly dissing 4K Trey members, like the 300 rapper Rel Bang, rapping in the August 2020 song Smoke Talk how he plans on hitting Ben 10 from NBA with 10 bullets. However, it would end up being the next incident that would get the 4K Trey crew directly involved, as YoungBoy's right-hand man Ben 10 and his cousin Marvin Batiste were shot at while driving on a highway in Prairieville, just southeast of Baton Rouge. The shooting, which police quickly determined to be a targeted act of retaliation, left Ben, the apparent target, wounded, while his cousin Marvin was killed. The Bleeders would seemingly hint at being responsible a few months later, as Bleeda member 40 Glock U rapped on the song Gator Pack how someone got killed but the target had been Ben. Ben would reply to the dissing, saying how his cousin was not in the streets and therefore didn't deserve to be killed.
Yeah, these thinking they really something. Hey, my cousin was a football player. He ain't even carrying a gun. You kill somebody who even like this for real. He know how to fight, that's it. Never shot nobody, never popped nothing, never did no gangster. Man, you ain't never seen no real, yeah. I'm a headhunters. That was my cousin. Come on, man. I'm just getting tired of this. Every song, every Instagram, talk about my cousin. Man, bro, that was not like that. You know I'm at every day. You know what? I'm at every day. Like, be for real. We ain't thinking. You wanna post your people. We post ours, long live them. Post yours.
Still, later in December, another alleged cousin of Ben 10, 25-year-old Darius Joseph, also known as Jug the Ghost from the Vultures, was seemingly killed. Now, there are no news reports about his murder, but on the day of his death, there was a drive-by shooting that reportedly killed 1 and injured 2, one of those possibly being Jug, who then died later that night, while the person who was immediately reported dead was 62-year-old Walter White, who according to the news reports was not the intended target. For Ben 10, Jug's death was seemingly the final straw. In his 2023 song Make 'Em Step, Ben 10 rapped how he had been spending his money on cars and dropping bags for Jug, seemingly implying that he had put money on people's heads to avenge Jug's death. During the funeral for Jug, on the other hand, one Vultures member would say to the camera how they're going 5 for 5, adding how 1 was down and 4 was hiding. That 1 perhaps referring to the dead Bleeders member Vite, while the 4 remaining Bleeders members who the Vultures were targeting would soon become clear. Still, in December 2021, Ben 10 would get into a heated argument on Clubhouse with the Bleeders' most popular rapper, 18-year-old True Bleeda, real name Dante Dorsey, during which True Bleeda would accuse Ben of being a fake gangster who hadn't shot or killed anyone.
Gangsters on my you the hat. Who you ever shoot? I ain't kill nobody. Stop talking like that, then. Man, I'm a whole hoe. You can't talk like that, man. Only reason you talk like that, cause why I'm a hoe when I met though. I'm a but when I met though. Never did. It don't matter. I'm a hoe. I'm a hoe. That already, bro. And they never did nothing but talk good as a. I'm saying.
Not
I've even shot one of his ops before.
Not y'all kicking 10.
That be them same niggas getting whooped from South.
Who said
East,
that us
man.
kicking 10? Who said that? Go with him.
Then, in January 2022, the Bleeders released what was perhaps their most disrespectful song and music video yet, Pick Your Partner Up, a direct shot at the Vultures. In the song, True Bleeder's brother, Co-Bleeda, aka Oakboy Coco, would rap how he will switch the Vultures down to see if they can really fly, while another Bleeder rapper called Peasy would rap how they've been killing their ops ever since Vite died, implying how they had indeed been behind many murders against the Vultures. But their luck was about to run out, and on the 25th of February, while True Bleeda, Co-Bleeda, and some of their friends were leaving the Mall of Louisiana after a shopping spree, they were ambushed by what seemed like a planned assassination crew, who arrived with 2 cars and opened fire on the car of True Bleeda and the others, killing True Bleeda and his friend Cliff, real name Clifton Lindsay, on the scene, while injuring 2 others. And a gruesome video showing the aftermath of the hit was captured at the scene. Interestingly, after this truly shocking incident, it wasn't the Vultures who were doing most of the dissing, but rather none other than YoungBoy's 4K Trey crew personally. YoungBoy's brother B-Way Youngie would post a story right after the incident saying LOL with a laughing emoji, and also seemingly trolling everyone by liking a tribute post made for Bleeda. B-Way had a very personal reason to hate True Bleeda, as he had allegedly been shot by him in the past. Ben 10, who had just been arguing with True Bleeda online a few months earlier, posted himself on Instagram listening to True Bleeder's music, and filmed himself walking in that Mall of Louisiana while taunting how he can't go out like them other boys.
And I go out like them other boys. 3 deep, you heard me? So I sent Nell 3 some shoes. He got like, no, I got Tay with me, cause I can't go out like them other boys. Yeah, fat. Yeah, right. Thinking it's the ground. What's that, gangster? Yeah, that's who I am. I am on location in that, man. Being in the mall. Yeah, I'm being.
4K Trey members would also reference the incident in their music. NBA Big B rapped in the song I Go, featuring P. Youngin, how they caught their ops slipping and killed 2, but all of them should have died. Herm's entire verse on the song, Soul Snatcher with Big B, can also be seen as a reference to the killing of True Bleeda, as he raps how they got the drop up on them boys, and how the ops' friends had been crying on Instagram afterward, which seems to be a reference to the Bleeders rapper 5'4" Don Dada. Herm also rapped how it was all fun and games when their ops were claiming the murder of his friend, which could be a reference to Marvin or Jug. But then the tables turned, as Herm gave money to some young members to slide back, seemingly referencing the murder of True Bleeda and Cliff. Fans even speculated that YoungBoy himself was referencing True Bleeder's murder in the song 4K Trey Baby, where he first states how his crew are killing or zipping their ops in the gang war before describing sending 30 shots through somebody's car door. Not just describing exactly what happened, but also seemingly taking responsibility for sending this hit, while the music video for the song begins with a scene that seems to portray 4K Trey member Who Gang D giving YoungBoy's instructions to 2 masked up shooters, who then pull off a drive-by like the very one that killed True Bleeda. Then, in April 2022, a few months after the gruesome double murder, the Vulture member Debug, real name Demetrion Grimm, whose brother Gmo had allegedly been killed by the Bleeders, was arrested and charged with the murders of True Bleeda and Cliff. However, in a surprising turn of events, which echoed what had happened to Boozilla's killers, the police couldn't find enough evidence, and the grand jury declined to formally charge him for the shooting, and he would continue to live the good life, traveling the country with his brother YKWHIFV, who seemed like he was about to sign a deal with YoungBoy's NBA label. Meanwhile, on Reddit, the online sleuths would gather lists about all the people who had allegedly been on the True Bleeda hit, these allegedly including both Debug and his brother, the Vultures rapper V, the 4K Trey member Who Gang Tay Life, and two other Vultures members called 1012 and CJ, as well as another 4K Trey member called Oaktown J, also known by the menacing name Headstone, who according to some Redditors actually plays one of the shooters in YoungBoy's 4K Trey Baby music video. But while the charges against Debug wouldn't stick, he too would eventually meet street justice, as he was killed in a 2024 triple shooting that we'll discuss more later. But meanwhile, after the murders of True Bleeda and Cliff, it would only take a few months for another body to drop, as 4K Trey's old rivals, the TMH gang, would end up losing another member. On the 28th of March 2022, at around 4 PM, 20-year-old Frederick Harris, also known as TMH Freethrow, an alleged member of the Too Many Hitters gang who had been beefing with NBA and 4K Trey for years, was on Birch Street in the Northdale neighborhood when someone opened fire, hitting him multiple times. Freethrow would die at the scene, while the unknown shooter would flee the area.
Thank you, Brian. We start this morning with breaking news from overnight. Baton Rouge police now identifying a man gunned down in senseless violence that happened yesterday.
Police say 20-year-old Frederick Harris was shot multiple times yesterday on Birch Street, which near Scenic Highway, just after 4 p.m. Officers say Harris died on scene and don't yet have a motive or suspect in custody, but if you have any information about the shooting, you're urged to call Crime Stoppers. That number is 344-7867.
The murder of Freethrow went unsolved for years, but 4K Trey members would diss him regularly, making it clear that they wanted at least the public to think that they were behind the hit. In the song Make 'Em Step, where Ben 10 also mentioned about dropping bags for Jug, he also rapped about giving $2,500 for a Freethrow, which fans would read as him literally paying $2,500 for the hit, although some thought that Ben's calculations were slightly off and he was actually talking about $25,000, not $2.5K, while others figured that plenty of young crash outs in the trenches were probably really willing to kill people for just a couple thousand. Ben 10's young 4K Trey homie Bossman would also diss Freethrow on an Instagram snippet while showing a video of himself seemingly digging a grave for him. And Who Gang D, aka Scully, would also diss him in music, rapping on the song Grave Digging Season that somebody shot the Freethrow like it was basketball. The Bleeders, on the other hand, who were also close with TMH, were hinting on social media that they had gotten revenge for Freethrow, with Bleeda writing on his Instagram story how they had sent a present to Freethrow from the afterlife. The get back that Bleeda was talking about may have been a shooting in December 2022 when an alleged 4K Trey member named Oaktown J, aka Headstone, real name Jamal Abdul Aziz, was shot in the Oakley Apartments located in southeast Baton Rouge and taken to hospital in critical condition. According to hip-hop media sites, Jay had been released from jail only days before the shooting, while he would eventually pass away from complications related to the shooting, with some Reddit sources claiming that he had gotten sick at the hospital while recovering from his gunshot wounds. But that wouldn't prevent his ops from claiming the kill and dissing him, with TMH and the Bleeders member Teflon Webby, aka Web the Block, who according to online detectives was one of the people behind the shooting, rapping in one of his songs how he got get back for Lil Freezo, another nickname for Freethrow. Meanwhile, another TMH member, TMH 32 Shots, aka Monkey, the person who some believed was responsible for shooting up YoungBoy's grandmother's house years earlier, posted on social media in March 2024 how it didn't matter how long it took and people were going to die for Freethrow. Freethrow's alleged killer was eventually caught in 2025, turning out to be 31-year-old Joseph Jacobs, who is an alleged 4K Trey affiliate known as Quell, with 4K Trey members like Pistol P posting free him on social media following the arrest. A very interesting thing to post, since some people on Reddit had accused Pistol P himself of being responsible for the murder of Freethrow, and another unsolved murder we'll discuss later. But by this point, it was already the third body in 2022 that people were pinning on 4K Trey, now amounting to a grand total of 12 murders. As previously mentioned, by the end of 2022, YoungBoy's body count in his music had grown to 12 bodies and 1 child, as he made clear on his song This Not a Song, This For My Supporters. Several more murders would take place in the latter part of 2022, however it's likely that some of these murders occurred after YoungBoy recorded music referencing 12 bodies that didn't end up getting rolled out until after more murders had actually happened. For example, in May 2023, on the track I Want His Soul that was released on his Richest Op mixtape, YoungBoy's body count was still at 12, with YoungBoy promising to make it 13. Ironically, it was around this time that I was working on my original YoungBoy documentary, Real Killer or Fake Gangster. However, at the time, there were still many gaps in my body count, which was much less accurate than in this video, and at the time, I came to the conclusion that perhaps YoungBoy might have been embellishing the murders in his music, or at least broadly claiming the crimes of others as his own. However, as many in the comments on a Reddit post about this perspective noted, none of YoungBoy's enemies other than King Von had come out to talk down on YoungBoy's reputation as a murder man, which many people believed spoke volumes. Indeed, it seems there was perhaps more truth to YoungBoy's lyrics than anybody first thought, but unfortunately for his enemies, he was far from done. In fact, things were just heating up, and only a few months later, another rival would end up dead. On the 5th of June 2022, 24-year-old Deontay Veal was gunned down at his house in Winnebago Street near Plank Road in broad daylight around 4:15 p.m.
Baton Rouge police are investigating two shootings that happened less than a mile apart from each other. Police say 24-year-old Deontay Veal was shot and killed on Winnebago Street. That's right off of Plank Road. We're told this happened at around 4:15 this afternoon. Veals died at the scene.
In the streets, Veal was known as Dede Blanco from a hood known as Darkside on the north side of Baton Rouge, but he was also close with a crew known as 60 Gang, both of these gangs being affiliated with the Bleeders. Dede's murder was one of 4 shootings that happened in that area within just 20 hours, but it's not clear if any of these incidents were related. Once again, 4K Trey members weren't holding back when it came to dissing their newest dead op, with Who Gang D immediately posting on his Instagram story a picture of him with Ben 10 and his cousin Marvin, together with the caption, "Go pick that dude up." In his December 2022 song Crash Out, D also rapped how he has Dede in his blunt and blood in his eyes. But perhaps the most telling lyrics came from Who Gang Tay Life, aka Taysky, who rapped in his May 2023 song Lonely how they killed someone on his own street. While in his 2024 song Creature, he seems to even admit that the shooter was him, rapping how they did him bad in his yard. Yet another Who Gang member called Dre Life took the disrespect to a new level in his 2024 song Don't, where he rapped how Dede had been shot in the head so bad his whole face was gone. No wonder then that 4K Trey, and particularly Who Gang, are commonly considered to have been behind this murder in online rumors. And after Dede's murder, it would take less than a week before they would allegedly strike again. TMeezy, real name Tremaine Phillips, was another alleged TMH, aka Too Many Hitters member, whose murder had been connected to YoungBoy's 4K Trey gang. On the 11th of June 2022, TMeezy and another man were out in front of a corner store on the 4000 block of Gus Young Avenue when someone opened fire on them, hitting TMeezy fatally and critically injuring the other man.
BRPD also investigating this shooting that killed one man and sent another to the hospital. Police say the shooting happened just before 10 this morning in front of a store on Gus Young Avenue, not far from North Foster Drive. Investigators say 23-year-old Tremaine Phillips died. A 26-year-old man was injured. And news since 6.
After the murder, gruesome images were posted online, allegedly showing a fallen motorcycle and what was left of Meezy's head on the pavement after he'd been allegedly hit in the face with a switch, with one Redditor accurately describing him as having his whole head blown off. His friends like the Bleeders rapper Ruger Rudy and TMH rapper TMH Joker paid tribute to Meezy soon after his death and threatened a get back, while his ops like the Vultures member CJ begun immediately dissing. One Instagram account specialized in the war between TBG and 4K Trey even posted DMs between Meezy and someone else, where the other person appeared to threaten to kill Meezy, but it's not clear who this person was. However, according to another Redditor, Who Gang Tay Life had posted right after Meezy's death that he had been the last person to see him, essentially implying that he had been the shooter. While a few months after the murder, he posted a picture on Instagram with the caption, "Stood over old boy and watched his head jump," which people believed was a reference to the shooting of Meezy and the graphic picture that was taken at the scene. In his September 2022 song called Why Me, Tay Life would even rap how he had to make sure that he hit someone in the head and how his head was bouncing like a basketball in the NBA 2K video game. These lyrics seemingly referencing either the murder of TMeezy or Dede Blanco, which have both been connected to Tay Life in online rumors. In his 2024 song Op Shopping, Tay Life would also rap how he caught someone coming out of the store, which seemingly happened with Meezy, who was indeed killed in front of the corner store. YoungBoy's brother B-Way, on the other hand, rapped in a freestyle during his vlog with the Taboo Room with Aaron S, where he mentioned someone trying to get away with a bike before getting shot in the face, which seemed to be yet another reference to Meezy, who died next to a motorcycle.
With a tape, Chris got it on prank on that bike, you can't escape. Got hit out in the face, go pick him up for it's too late. And I try to keep my cool, but I'm dying behind my name. Them chopper bullets bang, yeah. All you see is flames, yeah. Brother first one bust it back, and we on your.
Also, NBA's Ben 10 has been connected to TMeezy's murder, and that's not all, because according to some, Ben 10 has actually been the one to finance every one of the past 5 murders that I've mentioned, from True Bleeda and Cliff to Freethrow to Dede Blanco and finally TMeezy. Meanwhile, TMH were looking for get back by any means necessary, and even people in jail weren't safe, with TMH 32 Shots, aka Monkey, who had allegedly shot up YoungBoy's grandmother's house back in the day, posted a video on his Instagram story seemingly showing the aftermath of him stabbing someone for Meezy in jail.
It was crazy. Fat Joe ain't got no eye no more. He can't see. Come on, little TMeezy, stop playing. That pose I ain't gonna troll no more, bro. But all you out there playing, supposed to be my partners, ain't josing me. You're getting thugged, you fall around me. All the ops who play, you're talking, and everybody you know is gonna catch up with you. So you better choose the sidewalk.
There had already been about half a dozen people killed in 2022 alone who were connected to YoungBoy's 4K Trey, but in September they would allegedly catch their biggest score of the year as they would once again go against their oldest rival TBG, taking the life of one of their most beloved members. In 2022, the feud between 4K Trey and TBG would flare up once again, and another rising Baton Rouge rapper, who was a big name in TBG, would end up losing his life. Seven Hardaway was already 33 years old, and by no means a newcomer in rap, but he'd been recently making some moves in the early 2020s that had put him on the map when it came to up-and-coming rappers from Baton Rouge, often dropping music with his good friends and TBG label mates Fredo Bang and Lit Yoshi, whose music careers had all been gaining momentum due to their viral beef with YoungBoy. Like other TBG rappers, Seven Hardaway had also taken part in dissing YoungBoy, prime example being his December 2020 song Treason, which he would begin by rapping about YoungBoy's early days when he was still cool with TBG, saying how he tried to coach him, but YoungBoy disregarded his advice and got lost in the rap game. He would also belittle YoungBoy for having beefs with famous people like Floyd Mayweather and Jay Prince, telling him that he's acting stupid, illiterate, and immature, as well as later dissing YoungBoy's use of auto-tune, his lack of street cred, and his hunger for clout, saying that he can't rap and that he never did anything in these streets, inferring that his whole demonic persona is fake. In August 2022, Hardaway released an EP called Transition, where he continued the dissing, like on the song Sinister, where he would diss YoungBoy by saying that while his albums are doing good, his partners back in Baton Rouge are getting killed. After hearing about these lyrics, NBA Big B would comment asking who died, insinuating that nobody from their side had been killed recently. However, just a month later, someone would end up dead. On the night of Tuesday, September the 20th, Seven Hardaway was standing in the parking lot at the Sherwood Place apartment complex when he was approached by unknown assailants and fatally shot at close range.
Tonight, one person dead after a shooting on Sherwood Common Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Emergency officials tell us they found the body when they arrived at the scene.
The police were quick to determine that the homicide was gang-related, while TBG's ops would immediately begin dissing, with Vulture's rapper V posting on Instagram stories seemingly taunting TBG and laughing at Hardaway's death, while BBG member 4Times would post a picture of their fallen friend BBG Iraq, seemingly implying that Hardaway had played a part in his death. Baton Rouge authorities once again struggled to identify the shooter, turning Hardaway's killing into yet another grim statistic in the city's ongoing gang wars. But in the online rumors, a certain gang was held responsible, based in particular on the location where Hardaway was killed, Sherwood Place Apartments on Sherwood Common Boulevard. This would lead many to believe that Hardaway had been killed by B-Way's DHG set, although their turf is technically further north in the actual Sherwood Forest and Broadmoor neighborhood. Fans were also quick to point out how Hardaway had been dissing B-Way a few years earlier too, with the two then clearly having a personal beef that went beyond just B-Way's affiliation with YoungBoy and 4K Trey. Online sleuths would even point to one specific member of DHG, known as Sherwood Quest, a known shooter with deep ties to 4K Trey and even seemingly to YoungBoy himself, with one Redditor even claiming that Quest is related to YoungBoy and B-Way as first cousins, while another one stated that everyone in the city know it was Sherwood Quest who killed Hardaway. YoungBoy himself, on the other hand, had some interesting lyrics in his 2023 song F the Industry Part 2, where he raps how a paid hitter came all the way from New Orleans to kill someone in them apartments, which some believe refers to Seven Hardaway, while others think this is actually pointing towards Boulevard Quick, as both of them were killed inside of an apartment complex. Ultimately, the kill count was now a total of 15 by the end of 2022, and this was something that YoungBoy was ecstatic to get into the booth and brag about. While the song wouldn't release for more than a year after this murder, YoungBoy would later brag about having 15 bodies, alongside one of the most frequently suspected shooters in NBA 4K Trey, Herm the Black Sheep, aka Bobo. For the jaw-dropping song My Bobo, we would see YoungBoy and Herm rapping back-to-back, appearing in a music video in 2 slime green jumpsuits, with YoungBoy openly claiming that NBA were up 15 bodies at the time of the recording, and YoungBoy would be heard boldly claiming that he will have people blitzed in the streets or hit in jail. YB even seemed to suggest that he could tell you about 5 bodies that Herm had caught personally, and bragging that he goes on drills behind Herm, watches him walk people down, with Herm doing people dirty on YB's orders, and YoungBoy expressing his excitement about watching the murders be reported on the news. Meanwhile, Herm would brag about never leaving clues and not being able to be caught, and he would go on to say that he tells YoungBoy about all the shootings that he's done for him, even outright claiming that he did the deed for YoungBoy and now he owes him one, eventually claiming that he will kill ops in front of their mothers. The song was one of the most flagrant and detailed instances of self-snitching in his whole career, and it makes you wonder how on earth these two actually had the confidence to release such a self-incriminating track considering the rumors circulating in the streets. However, this was a public show that YoungBoy still had hitters like Herm in his corner who were willing to do anything, and I mean anything, to protect YoungBoy and the NBA empire. Herm would raise eyebrows again in 2025 during the Massa tour when he would claim in an interview with Mogul State of Mind that he would do anything for YoungBoy, including tie his shoes or open doors if asked.
It can't be too hard to hold the door open. Man, you can't be too hard, bro, to, you know what I'm saying, bro, close the door. Yeah. Man, like, what the f, man, like, I don't give a f if his shoe coming tight, bro, shit, I'm gonna tie that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to make this be how the f it's supposed to be. That's real. Man, for he a millionaire, He ain't got business open up doors, close them. If it start raining, before he got an umbrella, man, if it start raining, got an umbrella, shit, I'm hold it. You know what I'm saying? Man, like, you can't be too gangster, too hard to understand, man, bro. At the end of the day, bro, you gotta protect the brand, bro. See, for everything happened because of him, so man, if he ain't straight, see, man, fucking not straight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
He would go on to explain why he has so much loyalty to YoungBoy, claiming that if he wasn't in NBA, he would most likely be dead or in jail.
So let me ask you this, so like, if you weren't NBA, where you feel like your life would be right now?
I'd probably be dead, or probably in jail. Probably in jail.
Realistically, YoungBoy's talent through music was both fueling the violent wars in the streets that he came from, but also providing lucrative opportunities for those gun-toting crash-outs in his orbit who would have had nothing better to do than lay their lives on the line for YoungBoy. YoungBoy was loyal to his people, and his people were so loyal to him in return, there was nothing they wouldn't do, from tying his shoes, to assassinations, to sitting down for life in prison if it meant protecting the man at the top of the mountain. And even after 15 souls had been taken to protect that man, things were far from over. Going into 2023, the 4K Trey killers had been getting more active than ever, and most likely the count was already well on its way to the jaw-dropping 19 bodies that YoungBoy would claim in 2024. Sherwood Extendo, real name Courtney Brown, was a nephew of a rapper known as Tech, who is a member of an alleged gang known as Spider Gang, as well as the head of his own record label known as Spider Nation. However, the label and the gang might not exactly be strictly separate enterprises, as according to a recent October 2025 indictment, several people from the label were arrested and charged in a large-scale drug bust by the Baton Rouge police. These people not including the rapper Tech himself though. Sherwood Extendo was an old acquaintance of YoungBoy, as the two had done music together all the way back in 2016 when Extendo went by the rapper name Low Key Extendo. Tech also explained in his interview with Real Tune TV how every rapper in Baton Rouge was cool with each other in the beginning before the fame came, saying that he would also be in the studio with YoungBoy.
Like if you just watch and pay attention, you can see like YoungBoy was with G Money at one point, you know what I'm saying?
He used to be in the studio with us too.
Yeah.
Like he used to, like when I first met him, he was in the studio with Scotty Kane. He used to be in the studio with him. He was about to sign with him.
He was from New Orleans though, huh? Scotty Kane?
He from BR too. I've been knowing him since I was like 13. I'm telling you, like since off the porch, like when I, you know what I'm saying? I've been knowing him. It like that so small, bro. Everybody know everybody. It's just the fame really f***ed our shit up. When that started to get a spotlight, everybody wanted to be that, so it was like we all fighting for it, like crabs in a bucket trying to climb to the top, pull each other down. Like
the TBG rappers Fredo Bang and G Money, Tech and his partner Main Music, also of Spider Nation, were slightly older than YoungBoy and had been in the industry for years. Tech originally being signed to Master P's legendary No Limit imprint in the early 2010s, as well as later having buzz from songs like his 2016 hit Go Crazy with his partner Main Music. But after YoungBoy's career blew up, slowly a beef between the two would begin developing, with Tech seemingly choosing the side of TBG in the war that had taken over the city, as Tech also had personal friendships with many people that 4K Trey had allegedly killed, such as TMH Freethrow from the Too Many Hitters gang, who Sherwood Extendo was also heavily affiliated with, even sometimes being called TMH Extendo, as well as from gangs like TBG, one of the biggest ones of course being none other than G Money, with Tech dropping the song Through the Storm G-Mix in April 2018 to pay tribute to his fallen friend G Money. And so the dissing would eventually get increasingly more and more public, like later in 2018 when Tech threw shade at YoungBoy for having herpes.
She like, you from where? I'm like, I'm from Baton Rouge. She like, where YoungBoy from? I'm like, yeah. She like, oh, Like, what you mean? She, don't that boy got herpes or something? Y'all got that shit out there, whoop de whoop.
Eventually, this would turn into a beef against the whole of the NBA and 4K Trey.
You's a, like I say, you a sheep, I'm a wolf. It's two difference. You better stay in your motherfucking league, old and 4K Trey. Y'all 40 times 30. Old as a man. Stupid man. On a lit dude. Y'all got a daddy that's 20 years old. I'll be mad as a bitch too. You ride do anything to be down, man.
These affiliations and rivalries would come to their culmination in May 2023 when Tech would go live on Instagram and seemingly begin to diss YoungBoy once again after a fan would bring his name up.
Here I'm just speaking on like everything that's going on. Everything I'ma say gonna be some real. So get your little ugly on, little creaky looking right now. Give a about you or your favorite rapper. On both of y'all. What's wrong with you? One think they scared of Luau. I'm a one-man army. I'm just gonna bang. I ain't going for this shit. They know I ain't with that. They know I really on shit. Like, yeah, free or kill it. I on your belly.
Later that month, Sherwood Extendo was driving in his hometown, stopping at the red lights at the intersection of Gus Young Avenue and North Arcadian Thruway when someone opened fire at him through the passenger side window, hitting him multiple times, after which Extendo's car would crash into a utility pole.
Today we learned the name of a person shot and killed along North Acadian Thruway yesterday. Baton Rouge police detectives tell us Courtney Brown Jr. was at a red light when someone pulled up and started shooting. Detectives are still looking for the shooter.
After Extendo's death became public, Tech paid respects to his nephew on social media, as did TMH members like the rapper TMH Joker, while several YouTubers made videos about the peculiar timing of the murder so soon after Tech had just dissed YoungBoy.
I ain't saying YoungBoy got nothing to do with none of this, because he definitely don't. Way in Utah Hills, you heard me? Listen, RIP Sherwood Extendo. Just 13 days after his uncle Tech dissed him, right? Not dissed him, he dissed YoungBoy.
On Reddit, the rumors would point towards the usual suspects when it came to 4K Trey, such as Who Gang Tay Life, who rapped in his 2024 song Big Creeper how he kills people and leaves them dead behind the wheel, which some fans saw as a reference to Extendo. And another post on Reddit would claim that 4K Trey member Pistol P was responsible for the murder of Sherwood Extendo, as well as Freethrow from TMH, but providing no proof. However, officially, this murder remains unsolved, and with yet another body dropping, with the authorities dumbfounded as to exactly who was responsible, unsurprisingly, the killings would continue in the streets. And after a relatively less violent year in 2023, 2024 would see the violence ramp up once again, with at least 3 murders, which many attribute to the 4K Trey gang, led by YoungBoy. Dutt, real name Gyron Alexei, hailed from the Glen Oaks neighborhood, aka Oaktown, which was of course put on the map by the Bleeders a few years earlier, with Dutt allegedly being part of a subset of the Bleeders known as Soul Snatcher Gang, aka SSG. It seems that Dutt was a fan of YoungBoy when he was younger, even posting the cover of YoungBoy's early mixtape, Mind of a Menace 3, on his Instagram in 2016. But now Dutt was already a 30-year-old OG in his hood, and just as big of a rival of NBA and 4K Trey as any member of the Bleeders or other affiliated gangs. On the 4th of January 2024, at around 2 p.m, Dutt and a group of other people were in front of the Urban Meadows apartments in their home turf of Glen Oaks when a car pulled up and multiple shooters got out and opened fire into the crowd, fatally hitting Dutt while also injuring 5 others.
We now know the name of the victim killed in a shooting along Greenwell Street yesterday. 30-year-old Gyron Alexei was shot to death in front of the Urban Meadows apartment. 5 other people were hurt in this and taken to the hospital. Baton Rouge police are looking into what led up to this shooting. If you know anything that can help, again, that number to call is Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP, 344-7867.
After the shooting, there were seemingly many rumors as to who were the other people who had gotten shot, with Bleeders members like Monway Peso posting on his Instagram stories how he was fine a few days later. Co-Bleeder, on the other hand, would later post a cryptic story apologizing to Dutt for not making it to his funeral, while seemingly taking the blame for the shooting, implying that he had been there too. Meanwhile, already the following day after Dutt's passing, his family members posted a video on Instagram where they burned an NBA merch t-shirt while dissing them and seemingly implying that NBA and 4K Trey had been responsible for the shooting.
Whole lot of weight. Whole lot of weight. Yeah. That's how we come. Talking about never broke again, never get found.
It wouldn't take long until the Baton Rouge drill fans had seemingly gathered all the intel about everyone who had been present, while also saying that they had found the shooter, once again pointing to the prolific 4K Trey member Pistol P, who released a song and music video aptly titled Murder the following month in February 2024, where he rapped how all he knows is murder, and how he turned 5'4" Don Dada to some purple, and how he lets down the window and gets to spraying. Other 4K Trey affiliates also kept dissing Dutt on social media, like the rapper Nell from the Creepers gang, who were also closely affiliated with the Who Gang, with Nell dropping a song in May 2024 where he had rapped about killing the latest Red One, referring to a Bleeders affiliate, which some thought to be a diss towards Dutt, and a possible admission that he had took part in the hit. Clearly, Pistol P was gaining a reputation online as one of the most often suspected shooters in the modern-day 4K Trey lineup. But again, with very little evidence to go on other than song lyrics, the authorities had little to go on, and in the streets, the violence would continue, with another murder playing out the very same month. Harley Ken, real name Kenneth Ray Payne, was a man with a long history in the Baton Rouge music scene, from managing clubs to his own attempts at coming up as a rapper in the early 2010s to his long career as a manager for numerous artists, from early acts like Lil Fat and Scotty Kane, who had his own beef with YoungBoy back in the day, to contemporary artists affiliated with the TBG side of the war like the late true Bleeda, and TG Commas, another rapper affiliated with the Bleeders who's been having some major motion in recent years. Harley Ken was a businessman, but clearly he had chosen his side in the intertwined world of Baton Rouge's street politics and music industry. This hadn't come without consequences, because as Harley himself would once admit during one interview with Change of Plans YouTube channel, he had heard that there was money on his head in the city due to his affiliations, but he wasn't bothered, as he had been in the streets of Baton Rouge for so long that he knew what came with it.
I've been in the same beef, I've been in the same, these trying to kill, I've been in this ever. That's why that bother me, like, it don't bother me that they say, you got a bag on your head, this, man. It bother me, because I've been in this ever. It's like, shit, go around my life, I ain't going nowhere that he say. It's time. Whenever he says it's time, that's when I'm gonna go. I don't feel nothing.
Harley was also no stranger to the street life. For example, in 2022, he was arrested in Austin, Texas on 3 felony warrants while carrying an AK-47 around a car dealership. On the 18th of January 2024, Harley was in La Place, about an hour's drive from Baton Rouge towards New Orleans. At around 8:30 p.m., officers would hear gunfire on Captain G. Bourgeois Street. When they rushed to the location, they found Harley slumped inside a vehicle, suffering from gunshot wounds. Paramedics attempted life-saving measures, but he couldn't be revived and was ultimately pronounced dead on the scene. The news about Harley's death would soon reach the Louisiana hip-hop news media, and soon after, the friends and foes would begin reacting on social media, with Bleeda's members seemingly being left in shock, while some Vultures members would interestingly post pictures of their dead friend YKWHIF Carr, as if implying that Harley's murder had been a get-back for Carr. One of the Vultures' most infamous shooters, known as 1012, posted a story on Instagram with his song Barefoot Vulture Mix, a remix of a song by TG Commas and Fredo Bang, where 1012 raps what sound like unbelievably pointed lyrics towards Harley, saying how he's coming for the businessman, as if they had already tried to kill Harley before. The post was also accompanied by a fishing rod emoji, the implication clearly being that the Vultures had caught something they'd been looking for. The rumor that the Vultures had killed Harley as a get-back for Carr would quickly gain legs on Reddit, with one alleged local from La Place adding that Harley was supposedly killed by a local gang who were affiliated with the Vultures, while another local who had seemingly heard the shooting take place would add how the gunshots from the night still haunted their soul. The killings were clearly not confined to those who were the biggest factors in the streets. Now, even doing business with people involved in this Baton Rouge gangster rap war could make you a target, and not less than a month later, the final life would be taken in the lead up to YoungBoy's bold statements of being responsible for 19 murders in his city. 25-year-old Sage Wilson, also known as Lil Sage, was an alleged member of the SOG, aka Sleep or Grind Gang, who, as mentioned, are closely affiliated with the Bleeders, and Sage could sometimes be seen in their music videos. On the 22nd of February 2024, Sage was on the 11,000 block of Susan Avenue in the North Sherwood Forest neighborhood when a shooting would take place, and Sage was hit. He was transported to a hospital where he would pass away from his injuries, and right after the shooting, the police would seemingly have no idea of any suspects or a motive, and not much has seemingly changed since then, because over a year later in May 2025, Baton Rouge police would put out a statement asking for any information related to the murder.
Tip for you, they're calling in for your help in an unsolved murder. Baton Rouge police say they are looking for information in the shooting death of this man here, Sage Wilson. Police say Wilson was shot on Susan Avenue last February. Now his family and detectives are calling for answers from the community. If you know anything that can help investigators piece this one together, call Crime Stoppers 344-STOP, 344-7866.
But like always, on social media and sites like Reddit, rumors about possible suspects have been circulating from day one, as people would point out how several Vultures members were posting tributes to their fallen member YKWHIF Carr the following day after Sage's death, with people soon coming to the conclusion that Sage, like the other SOG member Mugotti, had both been getbacks for the murder of Carr. 4K Trey members would also take part in dissing Sage, with Pistol P posting a story on Instagram the following day, seemingly laughing at his death. But when it came to specific suspects, this time the Reddit sleuths would stay quiet. However, over on Facebook, a different rumor would develop, as the Capital Region Crime Stoppers page would post about Sage in late April 2025, asking for people to come forward with more information. And as one of Sage's relatives would thank everyone in the comments for sharing the post, one person would reply back with a bombshell, saying how everyone knew who had killed Sage, and then dropping a full name, adding that Matthews had shot Sage after they got into a fight, while adding that Sage's friend Sherwood Marty, who is an alleged SOG member, had then dropped him off to a hospital where he passed away. Interestingly, at least the part about Marty seemed to be possibly accurate, as Redditors would record Marty's reaction on Instagram the following day after Sage's death, where he would post several stories mourning his friend, even adding in one story how he had told Sage to hold on just for a few more minutes, which seemed to imply that he was indeed the one to drive him to the hospital. The alleged shooter, on the other hand, Dakaya Matthews, was arrested in another unrelated murder case in April 2025, where the police would also claim that he was part of a gang known as SGK, or Shiesty Gang Cartel, who had committed a series of auto thefts and other crimes. The investigation into the SGK would amount to more charges, when in June it was reported that 3 people with connections to the gang were hit with drug and gun trafficking charges. For now, it's still not entirely clear who actually killed Sage, but most people seem to think that the Vultures were involved one way or the other, with some comments even comparing the suspected shooter's car, who died the day after, with T. Roy, King Von's best friend, who was murdered in 2017 after allegedly killing close to 10 people for the O-Block Black Disciples. T. Roy's death led to a group called Get Back Gang being formed in his honor, promising and delivering back-to-back murders as revenge for what happened to T. Roy, with commenters on Reddit claiming that the Vultures had killed many people in honor of Carr, calling him the Baton Rouge T. Roy, while some would even point their finger towards Ben 10 for allegedly dropping yet another bag. However, Sherwood Marty would also post on Instagram claiming the Vultures were repping somebody else's work. But regardless of who was truly responsible, there was one man who was always eager to take claim to the violence going on in his streets, even from a distance. And that man was NBA YoungBoy. About 2 months after the murder of Lesage, YoungBoy's Utah mansion was raided in April 2024, and YoungBoy was taken into custody. This came soon after he was caught up in a prescription drug scheme that involved YoungBoy playing doctor over the phone to acquire prescriptions for every rapper's favorite choice of drugs, the codeine-based cough syrup, aka lean. But this, in combination with his earlier gun charge, didn't stop YoungBoy from dropping new music, and on the 9th of June 2024, DJ Academics would post a song from YoungBoy on his page titled Tears of War, while sending a message from YoungBoy to his fans, saying that this had been the last song he recorded before the raid. In the song, YoungBoy would update his body count to a jaw-dropping 19, while daring his ops to go and tell people he's lying. As we've covered throughout this video, no fewer than 19 rivals of YoungBoy's 4K Trey camp have lost their lives in the out-of-control Baton Rouge gang war, and whether YoungBoy truly paid for all of these 19 hits or not, you could certainly argue that many of these men might still be alive today had YoungBoy's career never exploded the way it did. Had his 4K Trey affiliates never been elevated with the money, influence, and power that came with his rise to fame, none of this might ever happened. In other words, even if he didn't personally pull the trigger, the ripple effect of his success may well have helped fuel one of the deadliest eras the Baton Rouge streets have ever seen. This is also no exact math, and even before YoungBoy was locked up in mid-April 2024, at least 2 more rivals would pass away in Baton Rouge during incidents that some have connected to 4K Trey. First, on the 27th of February, less than a week after the murder of Lesage, 18-year-old Deontay Bethley, also known as an aspiring rapper, an alleged 300 member called 39 Curveboy, was gunned down in a double shooting on the 1300 block of North 38th Street, less than a mile from the intersection of 38th and Chippewa, where YoungBoy hails from. The incident would also take the life of 19-year-old Louis Servin, but the events that led to these 2 youngsters losing their lives are murky at best. Following Curveboy's death, his friends from 300 would pay their respects, while some 4K Trey members would diss him, and some online detectives would even label Curveboy a 4K Trey body. But the majority of people were quick to dispel these claims, the most common theory seemingly being that Curveboy and Louise were associates who got into an altercation which ended in a shootout that would ultimately end up claiming both of their lives. About a month later, on April the 1st, one of the deadliest days in recent Baton Rouge history would take place. The first to lose their life would be 26-year-old Timotheus Bowie Jr., who was gunned down just after midnight during a shootout at the Vultures rapper YKWHIFV's show in the Palace nightclub. Bowie was a man better known as Bop, and a man who was weirdly closely connected to both the Vultures and the Bleeders, as well as being a cousin of none other than TBG rapper Fredo Bang. And there's even early pictures of Bop hanging out with NBA members. Bop had even talked publicly about not picking a side in the war between the Vultures and the Bleeders.
Hey people, this talking about how it's going on you gotta pick a side. I ain't pick no motherfucking side. The f I ain't no snake. That's what snakes do. Pick sides. F wrong with you? I'm from Scotland and I bleed.
After Bop's death, it would only take a few hours and another shooting would take place, this time in the heart of the Vultures hood in Bankstown, where the Vultures member Debug, real name Demetrion Grimm, and an alleged 4K Trey member called JJ, aka Bandit, real name Jonathan William, would both lose their lives, while a third person, a 16-year-old girl, was injured. As the news about all these casualties reached social media, numerous people would pay tribute to everyone who had lost their lives, with TBG members including Fredo Bang and Lit Yoshi paying their respects to Bop, together with many members of the Bleeders and their affiliates like SOG, with some Bleeders members also dissing the dead Vultures member Debug, who had allegedly taken part in the murder of True Bleeda, while saying that they were about to smack the whole city for Bop. The Vultures, on the other hand, would pay tribute to Debug and 4K Trey members to Bandit, but this situation was about to get tricky fast, because not long after the smoke had cleared, Bop's alleged killer would be arrested, but he would turn out to be the Vultures member known as 1012, real name Marquise Payne. The case against 1012 would later in 2024 move forward as he was indicted on second-degree murder charges for allegedly killing Bop, but an even bigger shock was when rumors began spreading soon after that Debug and JJ aka Bandit had not been both killed by their attackers, but rather JJ had actually been killed by other Vultures, either by accident or on purpose, after the Bleeda's member Fully Gang Jit would claim that JJ had failed to shoot back when Debug was killed, leading to rumors that he was later backdoored by the Vultures. Shockingly, these rumors would seemingly turn out to be confirmed as the Vultures rapper and Debug's brother V, real name Javea Ferguson, was arrested in August for the murder of Jonathan William, aka Bandit or JJ, together with 3 other people. This incident possibly throwing a wrench into the relationship between the Vultures and 4K Trey, as JJ aka Bandit was not just any member, but the nephew of Herm, one of the most famous and important members of the NBA and 4K Trey. Interestingly, in the very same song Tears of War, where YoungBoy claimed to have 19 bodies, he also rapped about Herm crying to him, which many believe due to the timing of the shooting and song that YoungBoy was actually referring to Herm crying to him over JJ's death, with this lyric being a chilling reminder of the real humanity behind these ruthless hitters, proving that even somebody as tough and terrifying as Herm the Black Sheep could still succumb to the pain and heartbreak that losses in the streets can bring. And indeed, after this, 4K Trey members would begin dissing Bankstown and Vultures after news about V's arrest became public.
Right now, what you said? Hey, I'm in Fairfield. Banks. Banks. Eat my teeth. Oh! From Banks. Eat my teeth. It's all fit. Long live JJ. Long live JJ. Long live the main shit.
This was followed by Who Gang D posting a message on his Instagram story, simply writing "green light," possibly implying that a new war had now started between the Vultures and 4K Trey. The first quarter of 2024 as a whole ended up being the deadliest in Baton Rouge history, and while the violence has since somewhat slowed down, Baton Rouge has remained amongst the most dangerous cities in America. And now, at the end of 2025, with YoungBoy's newest album Slime Cry dropping, there's really no telling just how high his body count might get.